Add me to the stage first. Look, I'm throwing Hannah up here before I even get up here. Hi, it's Cindy. How is everybody today? Oh, and see, I told y'all I'd go live and these dogs come attack. They know as soon as I go live. How are y'all today? So I know we're a little late. This was August 1st, which was last Friday. But Maxwell Anderson had his sentence hearing. I don't stream on Fridays, so I did miss this. So we are going to go over it today. Justice4Sade, and we need tissues for this. And then after this, look at me, I'm just ripping my thing out. Okay, y'all, look, I have a bruise on my arm, so y'all see I get all these bruises. I slinging my arms everywhere, see? I slinging my arms everywhere, and I've got bruises, so it's from infusions. I'll be okay. I'm not banging into walls or anything. I do. I got a big old bruise on my hip where I walked into the dog door, so I'm a walking disaster. But anyways, and after we do the sentencing for Maxwell Anderson, I do have Morgan Geyser from the Slender Man. I had that pulled up to do the other day, but we ended up doing something else, so I didn't do it. But I do have some of that pulled up. We'll go over from when she was sentencing and from when she was sentenced in the original hearing, and then talking about some of her releases. Hey, Lois, how are you this afternoon? And, go over her preconditional release and everything. And then the judge has chosen to let her go to a mental facility. So I do have that hearing, part of it pulled up. It's more of they originally were going to do a full hearing and have it televised, and then they didn't, so that's why I had to cancel it and plan something else that day. This was the other day, and it didn't televise, so they did kind of pack it into a court TV or something episode that we can go over, that'll kind of go over it with us. But to start off, we're going to go to the Sade Robinson. Let's see, let me get that up. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see.
Parties all set to go on the record?
Yes.
Calling State of Wisconsin versus Maxwell Anderson, case 24 CF1692, appearances.
Ian Vance Curzan and Megan Newport for the state. And joining us at council table is Detective Joanne Don.
Y'all notice this man still, you lurk away, Hannah. You just listen to me babble over here, and the little monsters in my background doing their little mouth noise. They're dogs. But yeah, I had to, before we get into this ugly mess over here on my screen, I had to order some medicine for the puppies because we sprayed pesticide in the yard, and Lola likes to go lay in the grass, and I wasn't paying attention. And so now she has a nice little rash on her belly. So I had to order some anti-itch medicine, and it's coming, so I have to listen to that. So it's about between 6:30 and 7 it should be here. So I've got a few hours. So I got to listen for my door, though. So we're rolling. On to this Maxwell Anderson. I haven't watched any of it. So I did bring a tissue. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, there it is. I brought a tissue. I did bring a tissue. So here we go.
Honor. Good morning.
Good morning, Judge. Attorney Anthony Cotton and Jason Finley with Maxwell Anderson. He's here in person.
Good morning, everyone. We're present for sentencing. In preparation for sentencing, I have reviewed the sentencing memorandum submitted by the defense, the pre-sentence investigation underlying this matter, as well as the numerous letters that were provided in support of the defendant, as well as on behalf of the state's victim impact statements. Relative to this matter, there is a pre-sentence investigation. Has the state reviewed it?
Yes.
Any corrections or modifications?
No.
Defense, have you reviewed it with your client?
Yes, Your Honor. Attorney Finley went over it with Mr. Anderson yesterday in the jail, and I discussed it again with him this morning.
Any modifications or corrections?
No.
Okay. State, there is compliance with victim rights legislation?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's in compliance, and many of the victims' family are seated behind me.
I do see that. Please proceed.
Your Honor, I want to start actually with the defense motion that was filed after the trial.
Thank you for that. Actually, That is a really good place to start. So relative to this matter, the state did proceed to trial in an appropriate fashion. They had every right to proceed on both counts of the, and let me pull it up real fast.
The defense motion was document 49, just for the record.
I have it. I'm just, my computer for some reason does not want to allow me to open the document. So just one moment.
I mean, there's
So
no reason.
relative to this matter,
Hey, K-Swan, how are you two? Y'all guys look at this. There's no reason to comb your hair on sentencing day. Okay? No reason. No reason. We don't need to look good. We're being sentenced.
clearly the defense and I came up with the same conclusion at the same time. My email was sent, I think, at the same point at pretty much as I received the defense's motion. There's an obscure statute, or a statute that I was unaware of, and I think the parties were unaware of at the time that this matter was proceeding. What the statute reflects is that, and one moment, for some reason, my computer does not want to open this. Is that count 2 mutilating a corpse and count 4 hiding a corpse. By case law, it's appropriate that they both be charged and proceeded to on trial. However, the statute that's in play relative to this matter indicates that ultimately a judgment of conviction should not be entered as to both counts. Which count is the state seeking to have the judgment of conviction entered as to?
Judge, I think the judgment of conviction should be amended to dismiss count 4. And as the court's indicated, the state's position is that this statute makes these two crimes much like an OWI and a PAC, where they can be tried for both. The jury can find them guilty of both, but judgment of conviction for only one can be entered. So the state would think it's appropriate to amend the judgment of conviction by dismissing count 4, hiding a corpse.
At this point, I will vacate the judgment of conviction as to count 4. I will enter a judgment of, I guess, acquittal, just to take that off of, would it be a judgment of acquittal, or how would you phrase it?
It's
Just
a
an outright dismissal.
It's a
So I'm going
dismissal.
to vacate the judgment of conviction, and I'm going to outright dismiss count 4 at this point in time. Okay, now that that matter's been addressed, thank you for reminding me as to that. Let's proceed as to the sentencing.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to allow Sade Robinson's family to start off the sentencing by speaking. There are 3 members of her family that would like to speak. First, it will be Adriana Reams, her sister.
Thank you. And I did read her letter in preparation for today as well. Good morning, Ms. Reams. In order to begin, would you please state your first and last name and spell both for the record?
Adriana Reams, ADRIANNAREAMS.
Ms. Reams, what would you like to say?
When Maxwell Anderson murdered my sister, he redefined my definition of misfortune. No amount of financial hardships, disputes, or everyday struggles were even in the same realm as the effect of the loss he created. He made it,
And try to go slow, okay?
He made it to where my grandfather, who had just gotten diagnosed with cancer, lost his will to live his already health-threatening life. He was mentally sick and constantly bedridden. He could not even garden, which is a core part of his life that I have seen him do every year that I have been alive. He made me witness my hypersensitive grandmother on the verge of heart attack several times. Breaking down from the combination of the grief, other people's emotions, and the stress of having to deal with all the tedious responsibilities that he left behind when he ended my sister's life. He stole my father's ability to see the work he put in to raise Sade for 18 years pay off by having more than a year of seeing her be a happy, successful adult who still loved and appreciated him. He stole her father's ability to repair his relationship with her and be as close as they once were. He stole my mother's chance to ever finally become the mother that Sade always deserved. But most importantly, he stole Sade's chance to be an adult, to choose who she would and would not let into her life, to prioritize herself for the first time and do what makes her happy. As a result of his actions, I have had to grow up way faster than a 16-year-old should have to. I had to communicate with law enforcement, take care of my family, physically pick my mother up off of the ground, on top of trying to deal with my own loss, because he left them all too weak and broken to do anything. I had to quit my job because Sade got me that job, and the whole time I was there, I worked with her. I saw the effect she had on people, the way everyone lit up from her presence, the way she made everyone, from customers to coworkers feel special, which meant that I had to watch all of that go away. I had to watch and hear time and time again all of the people, many of whom I've never heard of, who were deeply pained by the loss of Sade because of what she meant to them, because of the way that she changed people's lives and generated happiness and erased people's bad days with her smile or her laugh or her hugs or her compliments or her taking things off of other people's plates regardless of how full her own was. I could not continue to be surrounded by people who hurt the same way I did because of the huge impact she had on them regardless of the extent of their interactions. I could not be in places where I could easily be walked over because I no longer had her to advocate for me, as she always did when I had not yet found my own voice. I couldn't go back to a job where I could no longer be getting to spend time with her, whether it was through car rides, shifts together, or sleeping over at her apartment because she always wanted to take care of me. He made it to where I couldn't go to school without people giving me looks of pity or no longer knowing how to interact with me because neither them or I knew what to say, for there was nothing you could say for what he did. He made it to where I cannot ride my bike without random but kind strangers stopping me because they feel the need to pray for me and my family despite not knowing us. He made it to where I cannot trust anyone, not just emotionally, but I cannot meet any person without the fear that they're gonna harm or kill me. Because all my sister did was meet someone, and as a result, he ended her life. He stole my ability to feel momentary happiness without feeling guilty for enjoying my life when I know Sade will never get to enjoy hers. He made it to where I cannot let myself stop doing things because I know that if I have time and space to think, I will break down and I will not be able to start again. He made me miss school and sports and a number of other things because I was searching for my sister's body that he unremorsefully hid from us, knowing that it would cause us extra pain. He made me feel extra anger for the fact that he could be so ruthless and relegate my sister, who took years to build up the confidence to feel like something, back to nothing. He makes me feel extra anger because he still shows no regret and sits here looking stupid without an ounce of guilt for what he did. He stole my sanity because I will spend the rest of my life searching for answers that I'll never get about what he did to my sister and why he did it. Because even though he has no life ahead of him, he still refuses to tell us these answers, even though doing so no longer has any ability to hurt him. He stole my resolve when he and his lawyers sat here and tried to paint my sister as some dirty, irresponsible drug addict or dealer, which could not be further from the truth. A couple of months ago, one of Sade's old teachers gave me a letter that she wrote to me for a school assignment when she was 15. She talked about some of her hardships, and she had so many, which is why it is especially hard to know that as soon as her hard work allowed her to escape many of them, her life was stolen. She said that she wants to be my role model and show me that anything is possible, that she wants to guide me through everything and be my support system. She said that even 5 years ago, she wanted to inspire me to be as independent as she was, and that she hopes she inspires me to do what I want to do in life. She said that everything she does is for me, and she will do anything for me. Even in her 19 years, she was still incredibly hardworking, independent, kind, supportive, selfless, resilient, and special. She continues to inspire me for the fighter that she was, but he took the guide and support system and role model that she was going to be for the rest of my life. He stole my big sister that always protected me and nurtured me and put me first. And he robbed her of her ability to do that and feel accomplished because she knew she was setting me up for a life better than the one she was forced to struggle through. He made it to where I cannot read that letter that I should have always cherished and smiled about without crying, because now it is just a reminder of everything I no longer have. He made it to where I cannot speak about her without breaking down or think about her without shaking, to where I cannot even grasp or understand my emotions because they are so overwhelming that I have to be numb to them. He made it to where holidays are no longer a celebration, but a mourning. He robbed my future kids of the opportunity to have cousins and an aunt to love and support them. And I will never not be haunted and affected by all that he took from me, but what hurts 10 times more is all that he took from her. Sade deserved to be selfish and irresponsible. She was working from the time she was 14 because she did not have anyone she could comfortably rely on, and she felt the need to be self-sufficient. People only ever took from her. They took advantage of her because they knew how kind and generous of a person she was. As she grew, she began to stand up for herself, but she never stopped showing people grace, never let one or a few bad people ruin her open-mindedness and magnanimousness for everyone she met. As she became more comfortable after saving up hard-earned checks and tips for years and buying her own car and apartment without any help from anyone, she began to dream bigger. She was able to think about more than just getting by and develop career aspirations while remaining responsible and paying all her bills months in advance and still affording to finally enjoy the little free time that she had. Whether it was saving up for big vacations where she could go meet new people and experience new cultures as a social butterfly that she was, or taking a little breather and going out on one of her rare nights off between being a full-time college student on top of working over 60 hours a week between 2 jobs. She had every right to, and no matter what picture anyone paints, she was always responsible when she did. Her independence was finally allowed, and she was finally beginning to be happy. He ended it as soon as it started. He made it so she went through 19 years of hardships and abuse, and then after working hard to escape it, had no life left to be able to enjoy it. No chance to learn from whatever normal minor mistake she made as any 19-year-old does. All she wanted was to be cared for and praised and appreciated, the way she had always done for everyone else, and he instead took her ability to do anything. She was the definition of a fighter, the definition of resilience. She never laid down or backed down, and to know that he took all her power away and stole her ability to fight for herself is the worst thing imaginable. There is nothing that can justify what he did to her, and what he did was much more than just murder or dismember her. He erased her independence, her ability to fight for herself. He tried to erase her existence and her value. Now I no longer have the opportunity to try and give her everything she gave me. I cannot show her how proud of her I am or how much I looked up to her. But much worse than me, she can no longer make herself proud or make herself anything. And the only one who took that from her is the man sitting right there. I beg you to not let this man have any type of parole. You heard his ex-girlfriend describe the psychological abuse and self-harm he tried to impose on her. His behavior is clearly a pattern, and there is no way that after he has demonstrated the extent of what he is willing to do to a person so casually, he should ever walk these streets again. He still refuses to even admit what he did, and the jury and the public did not even have to be there to unanimously know what he did. He is clearly a danger to the public and should never be given another chance to cause anyone such tremendous harm the way he has done to my family. These law enforcement officers and prosecutors worked countless days working to find the truth. You, us, and the jury sat here for 2 weeks hearing all the heinous things he committed. Do not let any of that go to waste. Do not let the loss of Sade go to waste. This man should never walk free again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reams. You spoke well on behalf of your sister.
Speaking next will be Sade's mom.
All right, let's take a breather there. We're going to take a breather to tell Abellas thank you. And those went to M. Ulos, Nellie Marie, Jasmine in Alaska, Dainty Dane, K. Swan, Iowa Backyard, Hawkeyes, Melissa Crawford, Josh Hutchins, and Sheena. All names I recognized. Whew. Yeah, I needed a breather on that after that one. That was, yeah, beautiful speech. And the judge was so kind to say that. Yeah, Abella's coming in strong. Whew. Bark warning. Get out of there. Get out of the laundry room. Stop. Lola's wanting to, the washer's running because I'm having to wash all their stuff because of her belly. She got in that pesticide. So, whew. Yeah, you recognize those names too? Yeah, woof, woof. We always have bark warnings in here at Bella's because it's horrible. My dogs run wild. So, okay, after that breather, we're going to go to Sade's mom. And I know this one's going to be tough too. So, let's roll.
Mother Sheena Scarborough.
Yeah, pesticides.
First off, Your Honor, I would like to start off with, my name is Sheena Scarborough, SheenaScarbroughh.
Thank you. Would somebody move that Elmo to the side, please? Ms. Scarborough, what would you like to say?
I don't mean to be rude. Oh, bless your heart, Abellis. Bless your heart. Yeah, they'll be okay. I sprayed the yard, and Lola likes to go lay in the grass, and I wasn't paying attention, and she went and laid right down in there. So I haven't seen the mom's statement, but my problem is I'm hearing somebody whisper in the background about weird things, and that's what I
am the mother.
don't cuss them out here. They're saying don't cuss them out here. If you listen real close in the background.
What would you like to say?
She says it won't be wise for you to cuss him out here. That's what she is whispering to Sade's mom. Oh my God, bless her heart. Okay, I'm going to be ready for this. I haven't heard the mom's speech, so. Okay.
I am the mother of Sade. I've raised my daughters. We are light worker people. We are very angelic individuals. For us to even be here, I'm going to have to ask. I wanted to go before my daughter because I need her to be protected by this heavy demonic energy that is residual in this courtroom, this devil. and his entire demonic family in this courtroom. It's very heavy to where I can't even talk. But Your Honor, I am asking that everyone in this courtroom be protected through the white light by this devil that sits beside. My daughter referred to you as a man. You will never be a fucking man. You're a pussy ass bitch.
Ms. Scarborough, if you could direct your comments to me, please.
Oh,
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank
First off, Your Honor, I would like to thank you and the entire
oh,
team for what we all had to endure, which was it was freaking torture to even have to be dragged through what we were dragged through. This demon and his whole ass attorney, they knew exactly
Oh.
what he did and what he was responsible for. They took us through
Bless her
extreme
heart.
agony and pain. We are already
okay.
dealing with so much
Thank you.
trauma. There's no such thing as justice with what you did to my daughter and what you have done to my family. I have bust my ass for over 20 years to raise the best possible angelic light worker kids that do nothing but good. My daughter had to cross your demonic path. You plotted and planned to kill, dismember, then you disrespectfully spread my daughter across the Milwaukee like a piece of trash. How dare you? My daughter was everything. She was everything to all of us. As my baby explained, she had a different impact in each and every one of our lives. There's so many strangers and individuals in the community that I have engaged and met that she has touched and impacted. This has affected the world, the community in such extreme ways. There's no way in hell we should have even ever went through this freaking trial that you drug us through. You knew you were guilty. You're negligent, mammy and pappy, them demons. I'll deal with them later.
Oh,
But I want you to know that
oh shit.
you can no longer hurt my baby. She's in heaven. She's protected. We roll deep. My ancestors roll deep. When you touch my daughter, you fuck with the wrong family. We ain't no pussy bitches, and you should have never touched my daughter.
Bless her
My
heart.
daughter helped everyone. She fed homeless. She worked 2 jobs. Everything Adriana said. The community knows who my daughter was. Everybody knows who my daughter was. How dare y'all even pull that whole shit about that meth? You will not drag my daughter's name down, trying to plot and set up stuff. You gonna carry my daughter's name the correct way in her legacy. You and your family will be held fully responsible for the rest of your life. You will be eternally haunted by myself, my ancestors. I know you cannot sleep at night. They have already been at you. You will never get peace. You will never sleep. You no longer can harm and hurt my innocent baby. You took advantage of her. You manipulated her in the worst possible way. You're a coward. My daughter is a hero. My daughter is a hero. She has saved so many other women from this demonic serial killer that there's no telling how many more people that he has killed. If you had any type of decency, but you are a devil, if you had any type of core piece of anything left in your demonic soul, or if your parents, your devil parents had any type of respect, I don't even know how they could sleep at night, knowing what type of demon son they raised, and then tried to cover it up. Y'all tried to flip that house. Y'all done did so much whole shit. It don't make no damn sense. All y'all karma is gonna be a bitch. And I'm getting each and every one of you eternally. I'm getting the whole entire family tree. Know that. Your sister, all them, each member of your family tree will be eternally hunted by my ancestors. We're light workers. I don't even have to touch you. The spiritual realm already been at you. I can see it in your eyes. You can't even sleep at night, you hoe ass. Judge, I did want to thank you and the entire community, the officers, the team, Ian, Donner, this whole entire community and team has stood 10 toes behind us. This has been extremely traumatic. This is not even my character. I don't move like this. I've been advocating and helping others my entire life. I come from a mental health background. This was not supposed to happen. This was not a part of our plan. Me and my daughters had goals. They are both very academically gifted and talented. They are overachievers. For this to happen, and we have bust and worked our behinds off in life, and then to have all of this noise about the millionaire murderer's son comes and takes my daughter. I don't give a freak about what your color status or how much money you got. You ducked with the wrong family. Because I don't play. You thought you was going to get away. But I'm going to respectfully request that you confess where the rest of my daughter's crown is, if you have any respect left for me and her father and her sister and the rest of my family in this community. You've already done the worst. You can at least give us that much. You have messed the entire community up. People can't even take walks and go to the park, and everybody's in trauma. This was not your first time doing this. And all your dark is going to come to the light. If you or your devil parents had any type of decency of respect as humans with morals, there's nothing else that there's no excuse for what you did to us, what you did to my daughter. My daughter is now protected. You can't hurt her. You can't take advantage of her. But know that you messed with the wrong one. You weren't getting away with this one. And you will be dealt with eternally, like I stated. But your Honor, Judge, I'm asking that this demon be respectfully returned back to hell as soon as possible. That's what I'm requesting through the court. Please return him back to hell as soon as possible. No possibility of life without parole, the maximum. And this devil should not be given any more special millionaire privileges being held in certain populations. He needs to be, not he, but that devil needs to be placed in a population with the rest of the demons that harm and hurt individuals, the murderers, the serial killers, the felons. You are not on no special privileges. Your money is not going to protect you. It's a done deal. Sade's justice is just now beginning. And you and all of your family will eternally pay for what you did to us.
Thank you, Ms. Scarborough.
Carlos Robinson, the father of Sade Robinson, will speak last.
Oh, okay. Another breather, guys. That was a tough one to get through, but she did very, very, very well. I mean, he deserves everything she says to him. And I know, me personally, as a mom, I would want to speak directly to him. So I get that she's wanting to address him. I would be all over the place. I don't think I could write anything, you know. Okay, Lola, dropping toys. Yeah, I would have to write it down. I couldn't do it from off the top of my head. I would have to have it. Otherwise, I would be all over the place and exactly how she was. So Yes, if her family ever sees this, we all feel what you feel, and we are so sorry for your loss. I mean, this is just devastating. Okay. All right. Ready to roll again. There's his ugly mug with his unbrushed hair. Mm-mm. So I think they said the next one was Sade's father. He does look bad. Oh, that's a beautiful suit, sir.
My name is Carlos Robinson, CarlosRobinson.
Mr. Robinson, what would you like to say?
Um, I've started my speech multiple times since the trial. My daughter was an amazing person. She lit up every room she walked into. She changed my life from her birth, literally changed my life. She gave me a reason to think more of than make me realize life is bigger than myself. We had an unbreakable bond, me and her. Talking to her was like talking to myself a lot of times. I used to tell her she was the innocent part of me. What people lose their children. That's sometimes a part of life. I understand that. But to lose your child in this manner is unthinkable. No, I've tried therapy and all kind of treatments, and it's nobody can help me get through this process because everybody says nobody has ever been through this. What he has done is inconceivable. And to know that there's a chance I might not even have her completely to be able to put her at peace brings me night terrors and constant mental chaos. He has this. My daughter had a lot of life left to live. We talked a lot about her future. When she decided to come to live with me, and I got custody of her, I started to take her to colleges and things like that. And because before then she had no goals to go to college or anything like that. So I took her to like Howard University, FGCU, and she got the experience, and she started to change her perception of her goals and what she wanted to be and what she wanted to do. She had so much life left to live, so many goals that was taken from her. And to me, it's not just that she's not here, it's the way that she's not here. I can't wrap my mind around it. Somebody that does something like this doesn't even deserve. I think death is a way out. You deserve what you get. He deserves the punishment that he gave to my daughter. Everything that he did should be done to him. That's how I feel. To me, that's justice. I don't feel like he has a right to walk around and breathe air, eat breakfast, brush his teeth. He doesn't have that right. The moment he done what he did, he lost that. Any basic human rights. No man should be able to live doing what he did. That's just how I feel. And I try to make peace because I am a man of God, and I try to do learn forgiveness. But I can't get past this. I can't.
Thank you, sir.
That was deep. That was, yeah, me neither, Lois. I couldn't forgive.
Your Honor, as the court
absolutely
is
could not.
aware, there's 3 overarching things that the court must consider when sentencing an individual. The first would be the gravity, the seriousness of the offense. The court also has to consider the defendant's character, and the court has to consider the need to protect the public. The defendant was found guilty of 3 crimes. Count 1 carries with it a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment. The only consideration as it comes to count 1 is whether or not the court makes Mr. Anderson eligible for extended supervision at some point after serving 20 years of initial confinement. The state's request and recommendation of the court today is to impose life imprisonment and not make the defendant eligible for extended supervision as it goes to count 1. As to count 2 and count 3, the state would be recommending the court impose the maximum sentences and run those consecutive to one another and consecutive to the life sentence on count 1. To begin with the seriousness of the offense, obviously the court was here for the jury trial. I want to just highlight what I think the most important things were as it relates to what considerations there are today at sentencing. On April 1st, 2024, Sade Robinson went to work at Pizza Shuttle like it was any other day. She had that job for a while. The day began like any other day. She left her apartment on Commerce Street, went to work, and then later on in the day was texting with the defendant, and they agreed to meet up after she got off work around 5 p.m. They went to Twisted Fisherman. They were there from shortly after 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And then they went to Duke's on Water, Sade driving them both in her Honda Civic, and they stayed there until about 9 p.m. They left Duke's on Water. They went to Maxwell Anderson's house at 3161 South 39th Street. Again, Sade Robinson driving her 2020 Honda Civic, and they remained in his house for several hours. And what we know is that while at his house, Sade became incapacitated. She was grabbed, groped, had her clothing removed until she was removed from his house around 12:45 a.m. going into April 2nd. She was taken from the defendant's house by the defendant in her own car and driven around the county. And the defendant chose to ultimately go to what was his secret beach at Warnemont Park and dispose of Sade Robinson in the early morning hours of April 2nd. He took her body down to the shores of Lake Michigan. He cut her up into pieces and disposed of her in the lake, mostly in the lake. And then he took her car, left Warnemont Park, drove to the north side of Milwaukee, set her car on fire on 30th and Lisbon. In the course of doing that, in the course of disposing of her vehicle, he also discarded her left leg in the 31st and Galena playground, just a couple blocks away from where he set her car on fire. He calmly walked away and walked to a bus stop and returned home by a bus, Milwaukee County Transit bus, and then went about his life as if nothing happened. He went to work that day at Dugout 54. Later that night, April 2nd, Sade's right leg was found on the shores of Lake Michigan at Warnemont Park. And shortly after that, on the night of April 2nd, she was reported missing to police. For the next several days, as her family and friends wondered where she was, there were searches underway, and additional remains of hers were then recovered at the 31st and Galena playground. The police investigation allowed them to learn that the defendant was the last person she was with, the last person she communicated with, and he was ultimately arrested on April 4th. Days later, her torso was found badly decomposed, washed ashore in South Milwaukee. He had cut off both of her legs, cut off one of her arms, cut off one of her breasts, and cut off her head. Her head has never been recovered. As you can tell from what you've read in the letters and heard today, Sade was a completely innocent victim. She died alone in an unfamiliar place. Her last moments had to have been terrifying. And then after being killed, she was disgraced in the worst way imaginable, having her body cut into pieces, having her head cut off by the defendant who tried to make her disappear from the world. So when the court is looking at the seriousness of what Maxwell Anderson did, you have to consider who Sade was. She was a 19-year-old young woman, totally innocent. And as you've learned through the statements today, the PSI, hearing her friends and family testify, she was just getting into adulthood. She had just gotten that apartment on North Commerce. She had just bought that 2020 Honda Civic. It was a point of pride for her. It was sort of, it was a marker of adulthood, a marker of independence. She was ambitious. She had dreams. She wanted to succeed. She wanted to be productive. She went to school. She worked 2 jobs. And as you know, she was adored and loved by everybody, by all of those around her, her coworkers, her family, her friends, everybody. This is the most heinous crime this court will see. It doesn't get more serious than this, and it shows that the defendant has a depraved heart, and he has demonstrated a total lack of remorse, lack of accountability, and the gravity of this offense supports never letting him out of prison. When considering the defendant's character, we look at, for one, his criminal record. He has 6 prior criminal convictions. They are outlined in the pre-sentence report, and I think it's worth going through some of those, all of those, and the other conduct that's described in that report to get an idea of his character, and then to look at how that behavior was reflected in what he did to Sade. In 2014, he was convicted of a disorderly conduct, domestic violence incident. There was a read-in charge of disorderly conduct. This incident involved a domestic disturbance where he became violent during an argument with his mother. He damaged some property, pushed his mother, got into a physical altercation with his mother's fiance at the time, and it resulted in that person sustaining an injury, and Mr. Anderson himself sustained an injury during that. He was convicted, as I said, of disorderly conduct, and he was given a fine. In 2015, he was charged and convicted with another disorderly conduct, domestic abuse crime, criminal damage to property, and misdemeanor witness intimidation. There was another charge of criminal damage to property dismissed and read in. This incident also involved a domestic disturbance, this time with his grandparents, where he again became violent, threw things around, punched a hole in the wall, broke a phone. When his grandparents tried to call the police, and then he left. This time he was placed on probation and fined. He was discharged from probation. Fast forward to 2020, he was convicted of disorderly conduct. He had a dismissed and read-in count of misdemeanor battery. This incident involved the defendant beating up a man on Wisconsin Avenue when the man purportedly tried to intervene in an argument between the defendant and a female that the defendant was with. There was a video taken by a bystander that showed the defendant on top of the victim, hitting him with a closed fist in the head while the victim was on the ground trying to protect himself. Ultimately, again, he was convicted of disorderly conduct. He was placed on probation. He had previously picked up an OWI first offense, and then in 2022, he was convicted of OWI second offense after being pulled over going 70 and a 30 after 2 a.m. He was given a breath test and came back at a .145, and during this incident was also cited for disorderly conduct for urinating on the interview room that he was taken to by police after his arrest. There is a 2015 incident mentioned in the PSI. It's not a criminal.
I'm sorry. What did he say? You're what?
That he was taken to by police after his arrest. A .145, and during this incident was also cited for disorderly conduct for urinating on the interview room that he was taken to by police after his arrest.
What?
There is a 2015 incident mentioned in the PSI. It's not a criminal conviction. It's just an operating without a license forfeiture. And then the PSI also brings about this 2010 incident where he was caught at what appears to be an.
I mean, I just need to make the comment here. All these convictions, all these charges he's already had, and he was still out to be able to take somebody's life with all this going on. I don't understand. I don't understand this world. I don't understand this world. I don't understand.
Underage drinking party, and after being detained, became belligerent, vulgar with police, urinated in the police vehicle that he was put inside.
Another urination. Jesus, guys.
Since being arrested for this case, he has been in the Milwaukee County Jail. There have been numerous instances of misconduct while in the jail. Some of those are talked about in the PSI as well. I was provided with approximately 21 incidents of disciplinary infractions during his time at the jail.
Maybe he has a prostate
Usually
problem.
involving
Just saying.
verbal abuse to jail staff, name calling, non-compliance with the rules. There was one incident of him defecating on himself during transport after one of the days of the jury trial, and another incident where he had apparently damaged some property, an electrical box in the jail. Generally, his behavior.
Damaged an electrical box? What? Wait, what? I was looking at comments. I have to rewind that. This guy has a whole rap sheet longer than the damn Bible. Good Lord.
Getting on himself, non-verbal abuse to jail staff, name calling,
Whoop.
non-compliance with the rules. There was one incident of him defecating on himself
What?
during transport after
Where
one
are-
of the days of the jury
What is
trial,
wrong with this guy?
and another incident where he had apparently damaged some property, an electrical box in the jail.
Did he pee in the
Generally,
electrical
his
box?
behavior
Come on.
while he's been in custody for this case at the
I
jail,
mean-
he's been a nuisance. What I think is important to take away from all of that is that this was not an isolated incident of violence. He has demonstrated in the past that he is capable of acting violent.
Obviously.
But I think what speaks most to his character is the depravity of what he did in this case.
100%.
I think all of that shows he has a violent, dangerous character and also supports this court not giving him an opportunity at extended supervision. As far as the need to protect the public, it simply couldn't be higher here. As I stated, this is the worst kind of crime there is, done in the worst way, leaving a family and a community shattered and distraught. And the public needs to be protective from this type of behavior, and life imprisonment guarantees that. This incident had, as this court is aware, a tremendously negative impact on the community at large, on the public. The public was completely shaken by this. Members of our community, young women in particular, deserve to feel safe, deserve to feel like they can meet new people, go on a date, and not fear for their safety. And he took that sense of security away from countless people, and he does not care. The last thing I would highlight is the impact on the victim and the victim's family. Anytime there is a loss of life, it's going to have a tremendous negative impact on a family. But what happened to Sade Robinson was not just tragic, it was an unconscionably vicious act of violence that violated her dignity. He had her unconscious, was grabbing her, groping her, removing her clothing. He killed her. He then cut her body into pieces and sought to have her disappear. It was simply evil and heartless behavior. And anytime a child is lost, a family obviously is going to grieve and going to suffer. But in this instance, that loss of life was compounded by the brutality and the viciousness of what he did to her body after she was dead. And to add to that horrible reality of what they had to hear happen to her, they also have to live with the reality that her entire body has not been found. Her head, to this day, remains in an unknown location. And the fact that her head remains in an unknown location inhibits their ability to find peace, and it inhibits their ability to believe that Sade has found peace wherever her soul may be. And he's the cause of that. When you consider what her family went through, on top of losing a loved one, they had to deal with the agony, which was bolstered by the fact that they didn't know where she was missing, or what happened to her. And meanwhile, he's continuing on with his life as if nothing had happened. And all any parent or friend or family member would want to know in those moments is that their loved one is safe, or that they just want to know where they are. And it was and continues to be torturous to their family, to Sade's family, because they don't have that answer as to where all of her is, where her head is. And still to this day, there remain unknowns that will likely forever haunt them. And the family can't even say goodbye to her because part of her is still out there somewhere. And he's shown no remorse for what happened. He has not accepted responsibility for what occurred. And his failure to accept responsibility has further caused the victim's loved one pain and reinforces his heartless character, which we've already discussed and which the court must consider here today. Again, simply put, there is no more depraved of an offense that this court could see. The defendant murdered Sade, tried to rid the world of her being. It's the worst behavior any human can engage in. It shows he has no morals, no sense of dignity, no remorse, and there's only one sentence that is suitable for that kind of violent and evil behavior, and it's imprisonment for the rest of his life.
Thank you. Defense.
Thank you. We'd have Maxwell's father, Steve Anderson, start by making us saying a few words.
Ooh, okay, breather, guys. I just got my little cam on over here. Lola's sleeping. I don't mind popping it up when they're on the couch just hanging out. That's their little couch that they lounge on. So I don't mind sharing them with you guys. Okay, so his dad is going to speak. Okay, all right. I just needed a break just to breathe for a minute. What can his dad possibly say to make us see him in a positive light? Okay. She does, Lois. She don't mind.
Sir, please start by stating your first and last name, spelling both for the record.
Stephen Anderson. STEVENANDERSON.
What would you like to say, sir?
Thank you for this opportunity. On behalf of myself and my family, I'd like to say a few things. First, to Sade's family, there are no words that I can share that will reduce your pain. You are all in my thoughts every single day. Although it is not the same, having lost a boy that was like a son to me 10 years ago, I have some sense of what you are feeling. It took me a very long time to get past the pain that I felt for the person that contributed to his passing. I'm not asking you to forgive.
Okay. I have a problem. I'm just going to say this out loud because I'm a big mouth. Y'all know I sometimes can't hold my tongue. Sir, you are comparing losing one of your children to the death and dismemberment of Sade. No, sir, we don't do that. Your son did. Oh, no. Oh, Lord. Oh, deep breath, Sheila. Deep breath. Let's hit play again. We're going, Y'all, see? Y'all do see it. Y'all do see it. Okay. It's not me. It's not me. Okay. Whew. That's,
Anybody or anything that is between you and your God. To the court, in particular, to Deputy Allen, to Judge Crivello, thank you for your compassion and all of your professionalism. To Max, we want you to know that we love you and support your plan for self-improvement. In this, we hope for a path for you to become a positive influence for society, both while you are incarcerated and hopefully after. Thank you.
Thank you.
that's all you got. That's all. Oh. Mm-mm. No.
Thank you, Judge. As you noted at the beginning, we filed much of our remarks in writing so that the court would have a clear picture of what we were asking for in this case. I know that there's no.
Look. Hold up. Wait. Y'all. What is that? Is that a tear right here coming down Maxwell Anderson's face because his father spoke? Get the fuck out of here.
way to put a number sometimes on the loss of life. It's a very hard task that the court has whenever being in homicide court, you're confronted with homicide cases on a fairly regular basis. And by putting a number of 25 years of parole eligibility, we do not make any claim that we know the magic number. What I would observe is, in terms of that recommendation, is this. When you set, first of all, the sentence in this case is a mandatory life sentence. The jury convicted him. That's required. One way or the other, whether he's granted the opportunity to be, and I use the word parole, obviously we understand that it means extended supervision. It's often used interchangeably, but we're referring to some future hope that Mr. Anderson would have the opportunity to be released from custody. And the point of that is that he will be supervised by the Department of Corrections for the rest of his life, no question about it. And he has been in custody now, obviously for over a year, in solitary confinement, which is about as horrible of a condition as a person could ever be confined in. There are basically the unit of the jail, the unit of the jail that he's in is one where there's mental health patients, there's people who are going through substance abuse withdrawals. And so it's a torturous way to exist. Obviously
Wait,
there are.
Stop. He said, torturous way to exist. Get the fuck out of here. I am so sorry, y'all, for cussing, but this is. What he did to Sade, and
health patients, there's people who are going through substance abuse withdrawals. And so it's a torturous way to exist. Obviously, there are very real safety concerns that Max has going off to prison. We've I think expressed some of that in our written submissions to the court, that is a real consideration, because at the end of the day, this is not mob justice in this country. People have the right to a trial. They have the right to the evidence to be presented, the right to be represented by lawyers, and the right to test that evidence. And the jury returned the verdict that it returned. And it's your job to determine the sentence. But I want to emphasize that whether you agree with our recommendation, the state's recommendation, or something in between, no matter what it looks like, Mr. Anderson is going to be saddled with this conviction and the supervision and the incarceration for the rest of his life. As he sits here, I struggle to wrap my mind around some of the case, just like everybody else. We heard the evidence. We sat through the trial, and I certainly appreciate the state reciting it again today, but I don't think any of us have forgotten it. And as you read in the pre-sentence report, I'm not going to get into the details of it, but you read Mr. Anderson's version of events. He maintains that he didn't commit the crime. And you can place whatever weight on any sentencing factor you want, obviously, but that's his position. The jury reached a different verdict. And so for purposes of my presentation, I don't think it's wise or useful to parse through the testimony and point out what I think are points of reasonable doubt. The jury rejected that and they returned the verdict that they returned. What I would say is that when you read through the character letters that were filed by Max's family, and I listened to the remarks from Sade's family as well, beautiful remarks by some of her family members, and the character letters were beautiful as well. But so were the ones on Mr. Anderson's side. Every person who has known Max throughout his life, every one of these character letters speaks to a history and a background that wouldn't suggest that something like this would happen. His mother describes how when she would come to visit him, he had adopted dogs, how they were well trained, how they were obedient, how he talked about wanting to work in a nonprofit center someday, his abilities as a chef, his work history, his imagination. And you go through the other letters that were submitted, his younger sister who had written a letter and talked about Max's intellectual talents and how he was a good student, how things came naturally to him, and how he was a good brother to her. The letter from the grandparents who were mentioned here as part of an earlier case, but his grandparents talking about their positive experiences with Max growing up. And that's the theme I think that exists here in all of the character letters when I read through them, that Max
All these character letters, what they couldn't get up and say something nice about him. They just put it in a letter and said, "Oh, let me go hide my face." Get out. And he took care of dogs, adopted dogs. That's all nice and dandy, but yeah, you didn't stop your actions of what you've done. Get out.
is before he was taken into jail, before he was charged with these crimes, and before this incident took place, Max's character was generally positive. He's a high school graduate. After graduating high school, he went off to the Navy, served in the military for approximately 2 years. And I think there's obvious mental health issues in his background. I think that's clear. His mother talked about what she thinks was a traumatic brain injury that he suffered at 3 years old. There's a documented history of ADHD. And you read during his military service, the mention that was made about the suicide attempt that happened in the Navy where Max had tried to hang himself with an electrical cord. So clearly there are mental health issues that deserve treatment. And we know that prison is not the best environment for a person to receive treatment for their mental health issues and their AODA needs. I disagree with the state that there's a long history of violence by Mr. Anderson. I think there are some isolated.
Excuse me, you disagree? It's all on paper. He read them out. Get out.
Criminal convictions, but all those criminal convictions are misdemeanors. He has no felonies. And they are all of the disorderly conduct variation. Even the one that the state mentioned about the incident on Wisconsin Avenue that was prosecuted here in Milwaukee, that was settled for disorderly conduct with probation. The incident with his mother, fine only, disorderly conduct. So that is not a significant prior record. And I think that differentiates Max from a lot of other people that come in front of this court. You do see people often in homicide court with gang ties, long histories of gun violence, long history of juvenile misbehavior, and you don't have any of that here. You have misdemeanors. There obviously are AODA needs. I think all of these cases, if you look at the disorderly conducts that he's had in his background, every one of them basically involves either mental health or substance abuse. And I think that's a recurring theme that we see here and even saw a little bit in the trial. The copious amounts of alcohol that was consumed on the night with Sade, I think further underscores that there are certainly AODA issues here. Max's plans for the future, they're, I would submit, incredibly realistic given the circumstances that he's in here. He has continued furthering his education as one of his goals, writing books, continuing to learn foreign languages. So I think he does have realistic plans. And obviously the punishment that's been inflicted sitting here in the county jail in solitary confinement has been horrific. Really, there's been almost no human interaction. He sits in a cell all day. His human interaction is when a PSI author comes to visit him or one of his attorneys comes to visit him, but not even being able to have visits from your family, not be able to see people in a face-to-face manner other than the guards is truly horrible. And of course, the fear that we have of him being targeted in prison, we know that because of some of the publicity that this.
He keeps saying AODA, and so I looked it up because I wanted to know what that acronym was. And it says the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction runs an AODA program in schools designed to prevent alcohol and drug abuse among students to assist those who are experiencing problems. Mental Health America of Wisconsin also offers resources and information related to alcohol and other drug abuse, AODA. Okay, so that's what he kept saying AODA, and I wanted to know what he was saying. So they have a program in schools designed to prevent alcohol and drug abuse. Okay. Wow.
Cases generated, and I know it's not a matter that this court can specifically address, but we would ask that as part of the judgment of conviction in this case, the court expressed no objection to the Department of Corrections choosing to house Mr. Anderson as they see fit. I know it's up to the Department of Corrections, but it is an important consideration in this case that even people who have been convicted of very horrible crimes, we are not a death penalty state. We're not a mob justice state, nor are we that way in this country. And I would hope that the Department of Corrections takes measures to keep Mr. Anderson safe. The compass evaluation in this pre-sentence report is certainly not as bad as you often see. In fact, most of the, and that's an actuarial instrument that is done to evaluate a person by the probation department. And it's on pages 39 and 40 of the pre-sentence report. He is rated unlikely in numerous categories of having issues with society and routines, unlikely to have any leisure or recreation issues, unlikely to have thinking and attitude problems, unlikely to have negative personality traits, even unlikely to have anger issues. And so that's those are the actuarial tools that you've asked the Department of Corrections to use by drafting this report. They come back and conclude that these are not significant issues that need to be addressed at some point. There's not a socialization problem. There's not an educational problem.
Oh,
and we
there
know
is
that-
a socialization problem. I beg to differ, sir. There is a big socialization problem.
From his background, you learned a lot about Mr. Anderson during this trial. He has a long work history. He's been basically a pro-social person since he went off to the Navy. He's held a variety of jobs throughout Milwaukee. People have known him throughout the community. He's been a bartender.
Lois.
He's been a server. He's worked for an insurance company. And so he does have a proven
We're gonna
work
include
history.
the P
He was
everywhere.
also a homeowner. He was maintaining a stable residence. He was maintaining his financial obligations. And so he's not the kind of person who comes to court with such hopelessness in terms of their ability to function in society that I think we should give the life sentence for. So my recommendation, as I indicate, is for parole eligibility at 25 years. That doesn't mean he gets released at that point. All that means is that at some future date, 25 years, when he has matured and grown, that a parole board will be able to evaluate his situation.
Wait, how old is he now? And he's not mature and grown already? What?
And decide whether or not he should have the opportunity to be released. That's all that means. Doesn't mean he gets out at that point. He may not even get out at 30 or 35 or 40. It would be entirely up to that agency to look at his growth and his behavior in prison. What has he done? What has he accomplished? And if they conclude that that would be appropriate, obviously the victim's family would be permitted to play a role in that process as well. And they would be able to decide whether or not to release him. We're asking you for that mercy today and that opportunity for some future release. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, what would you like to say?
Oh, he's going to speak? Okay, nobody forewarned me that this man speaks. Oh, Lord. Okay. All right, let me adjust myself and stretch. Okay. Y'all, nobody told me he speaks. I'm with Cindy. Zap him in a chair. Give him the electric chair. I don't know if Wisconsin has that. Whew, okay.
I would like to start by saying that from the bottom of my heart, my deepest and most sincere condolences go out to Sade's family, as well as everyone else affected by this tragedy. That being said, Your Honor, I took this to trial without ever once trying to make a plea deal of any kind because I did not commit these crimes. And so I plan to appeal my convictions while I hope and pray that further investigations not only prove my innocence, but find and deliver true justice.
Anything else you wish to say?
No, ma'am.
Get out of here. Oh my God. He's lost his mind. Mental health is.
So Relative to sentencing, I have a job. And what my job is to do is to hold you accountable. That's to punish you. It's to protect society. It's to find a way that you never come back here again, to rehabilitate you. And it's to deter others from engaging in like behavior. At the point of sentencing, I have to look at different factors. I have to look at your past record. And I'll agree with the defense that the prior record on its face is not as egregious as many cases I see in my courtroom. Quite often you see a background filled with felonies and violence. But what I said was on its face. When you look at the record as it's worked through in the pre-sentence investigation, I'll agree with the state that there are some red flags that jump out at you that, that show a level of violence that maybe it may have been a precursor. You know, when you look at the original case mentioned from Pewaukee from March of 2010, it looks like it's an underage drinking party. And when the officers come in, they find a bunch of people hiding, and they indicate they're about to do a search. And later there's people saying that they were being held in the home against their will. Kind of a weird comment to have on an underage drinking party. Ultimately, they find Mr. Anderson hiding behind an entertainment center. He's belligerent. He tells the police, "Fuck you, I hope you're proud to serve your country this way." He's then very coarse and his comments are obscene. He then urinates in a police vehicle and calls a female police officer a cunt. Inappropriate. Then we have the 2014 case that involves the mother, where officers are dispatched to a location. They enter the home, they see, they make contact with the mother. She indicates that her son was in the kitchen. Officers approach and the response is, "What are you gonna do, shoot me?" And he runs out the door. He then jumps into his mother's vehicle and apparently steals the mother's vehicle and drives off. The mother indicates that when she returned home from work, he was acting strange. He was sweating profusely. He argued, he punched a vase, he caused it to fall to the floor. She calls her ex-husband. He pushes the mother into a room and shuts the door. He prevents her from exiting. He then breaks the phone.
Oh my.
He's continuing to scream and yell and throw things, at which point she calls the police. Ultimately, what we find is that he returns to the residence. He gets into a physical altercation with Mr. Foose. She's informed that he had crashed her
Wow.
vehicle into the deck at the rear of the residence and fled on foot. Ultimately, we find that the mother's fiance confronts Mr. Anderson and he throws that person to the ground. He's able to get back in the house and to prevent Mr. Anderson from getting in. He suffered 3 to 4 broken ribs as a result of the altercation. Ultimately, they have to meet with Mr. Anderson at the hospital because it appears he suffered a broken collarbone. He's convicted ultimately of disorderly conduct because he says Mr. Foose pushed him down the stairs as he tried to gather his belongings. It's interesting when you see Mr. Anderson's comment about that because he just says that Mr. Foose just poked him. Sounds like a bit of a discrepancy there. Then we go on and we find the issue with the grandparents, and the grandparents call the police and they say that he needs someone to talk to about his mental health and that he's smashing a glass in the sink, causing it to break. He goes in the basement, he punches a hole in the wall. He breaks the other phones. They have to go to a landline at a neighbor's, ultimately to call the police.
Wow.
It just sounds like he
A
is
lot
to
of
some extent out of control. He's ultimately on probation. He's given conditions of no drinking. He's given conditions of having anger management counseling. He tells the agent other people probably deserve to do anger management. I don't. He then goes on and tests positive repeatedly. To look at his explanations are ridiculous. At one point, he claims that he accidentally grabbed someone else's Red Bull that had liquor in it. But going through the repeated indication, it sounds like Mr. Anderson's the guy that does what he wants, when he wants, and he follows his own rules, not
I
the
agree with the
rules
judge.
imposed.
I agree with the judge. Back that up. 10 seconds. Let's listen to her say that one more time.
But going through the repeated indication, it sounds like Mr. Anderson's the guy that does what he wants, when he wants.
Yep.
And he follows his own rules, not
I
the
agree.
rules imposed on him. And that's a frightening thing. You know, I read through the defendant's version of what happened.
Yes.
And it starts off by indicating that he was skeptical to meet with the pre-sentence investigator because he did not receive a fair trial. And there's no reason to believe that this writer's report would be fair or impartial. You know, speaking about the trial, you know, there's a constitutional right to a trial. Every person charged with a crime has a constitutional right to a trial. And we do not in any way penalize anyone for going to trial. It's also a constitutional right to be represented by counsel. And Attorney Cotton did his job, which is just his job to represent Mr. Anderson. That's under our Constitution, the rights that exist.
Right, Abella?
Now,
See his face.
you get credit for taking responsibility. You get credit for resolving a case early. You get credit for stepping forward and saying what I did was wrong. Because usually this first step in rehabilitation is taking of responsibility. And we didn't have that here.
Nope.
That's why it's important to read what his version is. So you heard him say today that he didn't commit this crime. What he said about the offense was that they met for food and drinks and they proceeded to his apartment. And that's pretty much all there is to say, he said. He offered no other information as to what transpired that night. He later said that he regretted he did not walk Miss Robinson to her vehicle when she left his apartment, and he believed it was at that point she was abducted by an unknown assailant, quote, either from the alley or from my backyard, unquote. When asked how he accounted for his presence in the area where Miss Robinson's vehicle was set on fire, Mr. Anderson said that he was set up. He stated he was in the area to buy marijuana, and quote, and all it would have taken was for someone to know where I lived and where I'd be in the morning, unquote. He would not tell the writer when or how he made the arrangements to purchase the marijuana, and then instead stated, quote, I plead the fifth. He then went on to point to things that he claimed were egregious errors at the trial. He claimed that there was a video that showed the photos on the phone and that the state only played stills of the video. That wasn't the evidence at trial. Am I correct?
Yes.
He claims that the still photo that showed his hand grasping Miss Robinson's breast was part of a video and it was only a still that was shown. Incorrect, correct?
You're correct.
Okay. He indicated that at trial it was flaunted, the difference in age. And when I read that, I was somewhat shocked because I didn't really find that that was pointed out at all during trial. I mean, it was mentioned how old she was, but other than that, I didn't think that that was in any way an issue, and it barely even made it into my notes. So I thought my point is, I thought it was interesting how his view of reality seems different from what I find truly transpired. And I found it at numerous points during the pre-sentence investigation. You know, looking through this pre-sentence investigation, his viewpoints were very inconsistent with the reality. You know, I think the first issue relative to the mother's fiance, that was credibility. You know, it sounds like he lied to law enforcement. You know, he's asked, have you ever been involved in mental health treatment? Have you ever been in a mental health facility? Have you ever received treatment? He responds in the negative, but then we have the mother indicating that he was in an outpatient at Rogers. He indicates that he never made a suicidal attempt or had an ideology of SAID. But then we read about in the Navy how he was dismissed from the Navy due to a medical release, which appears to be related to the suicidal attempt in trying to hang himself. You have him saying about school, I did okay, but then you look at the history of how he did in school and his grades were pretty abysmal. And just odd things, like he talks about how he purchased the home himself for $160,000, but the mother says, no, I told the dad to buy him the home. It just seems like he has a different view of reality than the rest of the world does. So when I look at the criminal history, which I'm bound to do, it reflects low-level misdemeanors, but the facts underlying those low-level misdemeanors are replete with points that raise your concern. I next have to look at whether he has a history of undesirable behavior, and I think I've charted through what basically I found in the pre-sentence investigation. As to his personality, character, and social traits, it appears that he has had employment. That's a positive. It looks like he jumps between bartending jobs at numerous facilities. But who is a person who would do this crime? You know, what's the character underlying that? How can someone get to a point of inflicting such damage on a person, not only killing the person, but then dismembering? And then after that, discarding the body throughout the community. It's unconscionable, is where it comes down to. I did read the letters that were supplied on behalf of Mr. Anderson, and I do agree. They paint a picture of a man who helped his family when in need, who cared for animals, who went out of his way to love and support his family. But they love him, and that's clear. And that weighs on his behalf. You know, the fact that there are people out there that care and love him, that says something good. You know, quite often we do trials or we go to sentencing and there's no one here on the behalf of a defendant, which is really tragic and sad. So it says something good that a family does still care about him. I have reviewed the pre-sentence and I've taken into consideration what's stated therein. I have to look at whether you're remorseful, and I don't think you're remorseful in any way. I don't think that you have gotten to the point of taking any form of responsibility for what transpired. You know, the investigation that was conducted in this case, it was a dedication by numerous law enforcement officers to work tirelessly to put together the pieces to determine exactly what happened underlying this matter. You know, I do think that jury trials, they do re-victimize the victims. You know, it's hard to sit and watch a trial. It's hard to see the details. And it's hard, you know, not even to have known Miss Robinson, to wipe from my mind what you saw during that trial. And I didn't love her. I didn't know her, but you did. And that's a hard last thing to have in your minds. So I do understand how trials do re-victimize the victims. So when I look at the character of the defendant, I find the character wanting. When I look to the severity of the offense underlying this matter, I do sit in homicide court. And I can tell you on a daily basis, you don't understand why things happen. You know, almost every case, the victims come in and they want to know why. Why did it happen? Why did you have to do this? Why did you have to get to that point? And more often than not, there's no answer. We never know. It never makes sense. There's never do you walk away and say, oh, I understand why that transpired. It just doesn't happen. I can also tell you that, you know, I've read through all these letters and they talk about give us justice, right? Give us what's due. But I can't give you justice. There's no way you will walk out of here, no matter what I do today, and high five each other. There's no way you walk out of here and you say, justice is served, because justice would be having Ms. Robinson back to you. Justice would be having her with you for the rest of your lives. And you never get that. You know, to hear about her, she was an innocent victim. You know, she was a girl that I would hope all young ladies strive to be. You know, to hear about working 2 jobs to reach her goals, to be going on for schooling and further education, but then to hear about how much she was loved in the community by almost everyone that touched her. You know, it was interesting to go through the letters, because I got the letters that were from who I expected, you know, the mother, the father, the sister, the loved ones. I also got a letter from the real estate agent that worked with Ms. Scarborough. I got a letter from citizens. And I can't tell you, I really debated whether or not I would share this, but there was a letter from a citizen that doesn't know Ms. Robinson, never met her. And this is what he said, or she said, I don't know. The person signed it as Stargazer. In pertinent part, it says, Sade Robinson was not a torso. She was not evidence. She was a full, living, radiant human being. She had dreams, plans, and a future she was building with pride. She had people who loved her and that still love her, more than words can hold. And she had a right to live, to breathe, to laugh, to grow old. That right was stolen in a way so vile, so deliberate, that it tears at the fabric of what we call humanity. You, Maxwell Anderson, didn't just kill her. You carved her, and you discarded her like garbage. And you tried to erase her body from this earth piece by piece. And for what? Not even you had the courage to say. You sat there in court as if you were a man. You didn't snap, you planned. You didn't panic, you dismembered. And still you offer no answers, no remorse, no ounce of dignity that you stripped from her. But here's what you couldn't take. You could not mutilate her soul. You could not silence the scream of justice. You could not prevent an entire community from rising up in Sade's name. We know who she was. We know what she could have become, and we will not let your darkness define her. To the family, there are no words that can hold the weight of your pain, but I need you to know we see you. We mourn with you. We love you. You have the right to tears. You have the right to rage. You have the right to every ounce of justice this system can give. May you feel her arms in the wind. May you hear her laughter in your memories. May you know that she did not die forgotten, she died loved, and we will remember her always. Maxwell Anderson, you are not the center of this story. She is, and she will always be. Sade Robinson lives on in light, in truth, and in love, and you will be remembered only as a man who tried to destroy something beautiful, but failed. You know, I thought that was beautiful. And I think that it shows the impact that this had on the community. You know, that took time and effort and thought. And I think it put together a lot of what the community felt. So going back to what I need to look at. In formulating a proper sentence, I need to look at the character of the defendant. I need to look at the severity of the offense. You know, to take away a child is horrific. You know, you wouldn't wish that on anybody. To have a child not outlive the parents is a horrible thing. But not only did you extinguish her life, but you hid it, and you hid her body to be found. And I can only imagine every time a news report, every time something clicked that another body part was found, how it had to just re-victimize this family, how it had to just be like another shot to their soul. I can't imagine how horrific that had to be. And yet, I wonder which was worse, the not knowing in those first days where she was, you know. I can't even think of a word, horrific. It's beyond imaginable for a parent to think of not being able to know if your children are dead or alive, and then to learn that they were dismembered and disgraced to the extent that this poor girl, her body endured, is beyond understanding. So the severity of the offense, I'll agree. It's definitely at the top of some of the worst homicides I've seen in this court. Looking at the impact on the community, I read that letter because I thought it stated to a great extent what we're here about. You know, what my job is to do, it is to hold you accountable and to punish you. It is also to protect society. And that's about, how do we figure out if at some point you're redeemable? How do we figure out if at some point you will change your mindset? You will get the therapy and education to be at a point where you will be safe to have in the community. Now, part of that goes into the fact that you don't take responsibility. You know, I listened to the evidence. I watched what was introduced during the course of the trial. There is no explanation that I've heard that's valid as to why you would be walking away from that burning car. You know, those photos were not of a girl in a video enjoying life. Those photos of you grasping the breast that was ultimately shaved from her body, with her face plastered into that, I don't recall if it was the ottoman of the couch, the way that her body was positioned, there's no explanation for that. I don't need to rehash the evidence. I've gone through all my notes from this trial, and I think that Attorney Vance Cruzan did a nice job of summarizing in pertinent part the details. But there's no answer that you briefly provided in this pre-sentence that makes even a hint, that even resonates with a hint of truth. So how do we protect society from a man who clearly has had darkness in his past, who engaged in behavior that is, it's the facts that you.
Wait a minute. Sorry. She said that he's had darkness in his past. He caused all kinds of darkness. I have a little problem with the way she just worded that. Okay, breathe, Sheila.
You see written in horror novels. That's what we have to determine. And you know, it isn't easy. I can tell you that when you think about, is there ever something redeemable in a person? You'd like to say at some point there is. And I can tell you that at the points in life where I've come to the conclusion that there isn't anything redeemable, you know, you do think about, I think it takes away a little piece of my soul. How come I couldn't find anything good? How come I can't find anything that I can say at some point you'll be a better person? So ultimately at sentencing, considering the seriousness of the offense, your character, and the needs of society. This is clearly not a probation case. Probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense and isn't even allowable under our law. You are sentenced to a term of life imprisonment, and that is what the penalty is for a jury of your peers ultimately coming back and convicting you on first-degree intentional. In this case, I didn't see a restitution request.
We are asking for a restitution hearing, and we've pre-selected a date.
Thank you. We'll be setting restitution off to be determined at a later date. Relative to this matter, I have considered the seriousness of the offense. I have weighed your character, and as I've indicated, I find it wanting. I've also reflected on the needs of society, and are you a good risk? And sadly, you're not. As to my sentence, relative to the nature of the offense, You are not eligible for challenge incarceration. You're clearly not eligible for any substance abuse programming. Restitution will be determined at a later date. You do need to submit a biological specimen to the state crime lab and pay the surcharge thereof. You do have the right to appeal. And if indigent, you have the right to the assistance of the public defender. What you need to understand is that a notice of intent to pursue post-conviction relief must be filed in the trial court within 20 days after sentencing for your rights to be preserved. You have been convicted of a felony. You may never possess a firearm. If you do, you're looking at 10 years of imprisonment, a $25,000 fine, or both. You may not possess body armor at any time in the future. If you do, you'll be subject to 15 years of imprisonment, a $50,000 fine, or both. You cannot vote in any election. I'm going to waive all non-mandatory fees, costs, and assessments. I'm ultimately going to want payment for restitution first and foremost. So we're going to determine that on a later date. But due to that, I'm not imposing any fine. The fees, costs, and assessments will be payable during your term of confinement at a rate to be determined by the DOC. Pretrial incarceration credit.
I'll get that information to you.
Okay. So relative to one moment. Count 3, arson of property other than building. That's a class I felony. On that offense, you are looking at a fine of up to $10,000 or imprisonment for not more than 3 years and 6 months or both. Relative to that matter, the maximum is 18 months of initial confinement and 2 years of extended supervision. I am imposing 18 months of initial confinement and 2 years of extended supervision. One moment. As to count 2, which is a charge of mutilating a corpse, that's a class F felony. That means upon conviction, you could be fined not more than $25,000 and imprisoned not more than 12 years and 6 months or both. Relative to that, the maximum is 7.5 years of initial confinement and 5 years of extended supervision. I am imposing 7.5 years of initial confinement and 5 years of supervision. Relative to count 1, that is a class A felony, the charge of first-degree intentional homicide. Relative to that, you shall be sentenced to imprisonment for life. And relative to this matter, weighing all of the factors that I must, looking at the Galleon factors, considering your character, the severity of the offense, and the impact on the community, where you stole a truly shining light is what it sounds like. I am ordering that you will not be eligible for extended supervision. Counts 2 and 3 are consecutive to count 1. The date for the restitution hearing will be
September 4th at 10:30.
Have you determined?
Yes, excluding today's date, 484 days.
I will provide you with a written explanation of the determinate sentence for your review. State, what have I failed to address?
I think that's everything.
Defense, what have I failed to address?
Nothing further.
Celeste?
Nothing, Judge.
One moment, and I'll give you a copy. Is there a printer in the paper? Is there paper in the printer?
Is there a printer in the paper? She misspoke. Is a printer in the paper? Probably so, Journey. I mean, he's already said he'll support him in his next endeavors of you know, becoming a better person. Next endeavor. Go. Yeah. It's Wisconsin. He gets to go hang out with Daryl Brooks. Police are coming. Police are coming.
You know, moving forward,
Timing.
just an idea. You know, Sade Robinson, she was working so hard for good. She was working so hard to achieve so much. I haven't heard a word about how she was involved in violence or any type of attack or any type of ugliness. Wouldn't it be great if we all move forward not thinking about retaliation or revenge or hunting people, but about let's emulate that spirit and move forward trying to be kind and gracious to all. I mean, that's clearly the effect she had on the community. If we all try a little harder to step away from violence and to be kind to each other, to communicate more, maybe our world will be a better place. Just an idea. Thanks, everybody.
Wow. I want her to repeat that. Repeat that, lady. I want that repeated.
We're trying to be kind and gracious, thinking about attack or any type of ugliness. Wouldn't it be great if we all move forward not thinking about retaliation or revenge or hunting people, but about let's emulate that spirit and move forward trying to be kind and gracious to all. I mean, that's clearly the effect she had on the community.
Beautiful.
If we all try a little harder to step away from violence and to be kind to each other, to communicate more, maybe our world will be a better place.
Perfect.
Just an idea.
Wording.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Wow. All right, let's watch them. Oh, they're gonna unshackle him from the table. He's shackled, I guess. All right. No way, Journey. He does. He does. Oh, okay. Let me see. So we are going to, I'm going to play this one first. This was from 3 months ago. Okay. And this was Ashley Banfield, and they're talking about Morgan Geyser. And she spent nearly a decade in a mental health facility after stabbing a friend 19 times at age 12. Hang on just a second. Let me put a marker in there. Right? Don't let him hit you on the way out. He's peeing somewhere, y'all. Y'all know he done went and peed somewhere. All right. Anyway, so we're on to Morgan Geiger. She had a hearing. She is considering to be released, transferred to a halfway house. Concerns of her behavior behind bars, including troubling relationships with murder memorabilia collector and reading violent crime novels, have raised questions. Adding to the controversy, the proposed group home is just 8 miles from the victim's house, prompting outrage from the victim's family and concern from the judge. So I want to watch this first, and then we will watch the release. Hang on, I don't even know where I put it. They're talking about a possible release, and the other one is a Julie Grant. It's a court TV one, so we just kind of have to work with what we got, because I originally had the hearing when they pulled it up, and then the hearing disappeared, and we got some voice talking, telling us what happened. We didn't get to see the whole hearing, which I'd rather see the whole hearing. I'm more interested in seeing the whole hearings of things because I get a better understanding and all that. So, yeah, she's still an evil monster. She is. He's going to get a Bellis. Okay, I'm going to hit play on this. And no, I don't think she needs to be released either. I have a big problem with it, even though she was only 12 when it happened. Yeah, and what is it, 7 or 8 miles from the victim's house? It's too much. It's too much. So, okay, I'm gonna hit play, and I am going to drop Lola down, and I'm gonna make a bathroom run once I hit play. I got my phone with me.
Age 12, she believed in a fictional boogeyman, a tall, faceless monster in a black suit created by other young people on the internet. His name was Slender Man. And the power he held over young Morgan Geyser was so magnetic that she was willing to kill for him. And she very nearly did. Morgan is not 12 years old anymore. She's almost 23. And she's been locked up in a mental health facility ever since the horrifying day that she stabbed a little friend of hers 19 times. In 2014, Morgan and another little friend named Anissa Weir lured their 12-year-old friend Peyton Lautner into the woods, and they jumped Peyton. Here's some of what Morgan told the police back then.
What were you trying to do with her when you stabbed her?
Kill her. I might as well just say it. We were trying to kill her. I don't know why it was necessary that it was her, but it seems very necessary.
Why did you try to get down there?
We said that we were going to go bird watching. People who trust you become very gullible, and it was sort of sad.
Miraculously, despite being stabbed 19 times, Peyton survived. That little 12-year-old girl crawled to a bike path and was rescued by a passerby. Anissa and Morgan were both arrested and tried, and both found not guilty by reason of mental disease. They were 12. Anissa was ordered to be confined to a psychiatric facility for 25 years, but she walked out after just 4. Morgan, who did the stabbing, got 40 years. And now Morgan has served 7 years, but she too is on the brink of release. Not full-on freedom, but transfer to a halfway house with round-the-clock supervision. And while that may not sit well with a lot of you watching right now, hold on to your seat for a minute. Because Morgan hasn't been squeaky clean, shall we say, while in lockup. Since the beginning of this year, complaints have surfaced that Morgan had a relationship with a murder memorabilia collector while she was being held in this facility. Her advocates say the relationship was one way and that Morgan ended it. But that person visited. There were also claims that Morgan reads violent crime novels behind bars, including one about organ trafficking, a book called Rent Boy. The defense says that Morgan never tried to hide these books. Today, all sides were back in court so that the judge could sign off on the halfway house transfer, but suddenly the state raised what they called a very large problem, end quote. The group home that officials had selected is just 8 miles from the victim's house. The victim's mother told the court she's, quote, very concerned. It's an understatement. Apparently the judge was too. So they're all supposed to come back and consider this new placement in a month. But my question is, why is she being considered for release at all, given these predilections that she's got? I'm joined now by my friend Mark Garagos, criminal defense attorney and co-host of the hit podcasts Reasonable Doubt and Two Angry Men. Help me get my head around this, Mark. She's supposed to go away for 40 years. We're into it for 10. She's got a friend who's a murder memorabilia collector visiting her at this facility, and she's reading books about organ transfer. How does she get good time or any time at all?
It's mainly a product of the mental health system. The problem with the criminal justice system is when you try to apply it or put it over the.
I have to comment on that too, Abellis. He looks bad here. This is 3 and 4 months ago. April 29th is when this is recorded. I mean, I've watched Mark Garagos for a long time. Yeah, and I can't believe she's got all this murder memorabilia and the novels she's reading. I mean, this is just horrible. When I heard this, I was like, oh my God, and they're just gonna let her out? They're just gonna let her out. Okay, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin is where she's going to be housed. That's about 30 miles from Madison, the capital of Wisconsin. Okay, so they did not house her there. Well, that's good to know. It's good to know. Good to know, because, yeah. All right, hit play.
Overlay it on a mental health issue, and that's what you have here. And a lot of times the system is ill-equipped to deal with mental health. I can't tell you how many cases where they get pinged back and forth between the criminal justice system and the mental health facility and back and forth. And there's never a real satisfying answer. I think it's probably more fundamental to the problems that we have writ large in society with mental health. Mental health should not be something that's dealt with in the criminal justice system. Clearly here, she was put into the mental health system and then brought back to the criminal justice system to deal with it. And they're just ill-equipped and they don't have the background for it.
Well, look, I'm not, and I never have been a fan of saying, take a 12-year-old who does something horrendous and then lock them away and throw away the key. However, I am also very mindful that this little girl survived, that her mother and her family has lived hell ever since, and knowing that the perpetrators of this hideous crime that they thought was just that she just had to die, could be out and walking among them again with these existing mental health conditions. It's very, very upsetting. Does the family have a say here? Does the family of the victim have any say in any of this?
Absolutely. I mean, the victims have rights. They've got constitution.
Okay, but they have say and they have rights and everything, but they don't make final decisions and judgments. So their say only goes so far, in my opinion. If she makes one mistake, she'll be back to serve the rest of her sentence. And knowing that she's caused all this havoc in jail and stuff, can she behave at a care facility? I mean, let's be real here. I mean, until you're okay and you seek to get mental help and take care of yourself, nobody can do it for you. So
rights in most jurisdictions. They do have a say, and that's one of the reasons that there was a stop to this, because of the rule, basically, that they can give voice or give what's normally called an impact. So clearly they can. But on the other hand, you do have this situation where 12-year-olds are not fully formed, and that's not to excuse anything, but it does explain a lot of what's happening here. And it's a horrible case from every different angle. There's nothing satisfying about this case in any way, shape, or form.
I'll tell you what, it would be hard enough if this child and now adult had done everything right and, checked every box and looked perfectly healthy and ready for release after just 10 years of a 40-year sentence. It would be hard enough for that family of the poor the Lautner family, Peyton Lautner's family, the child who was stabbed. But you have this additional insult, which is that this kid, 23 years old, is visiting with a murder memorabilia aficionado and reading twisted books. That to me doesn't sound like somebody who qualifies. How can she?
I totally
Well,
agree with that,
the
actually.
murder memorabilia person, at least there's a suggestion that that was unilateral, that that was not something that she had engaged in. I don't know. I'm not close enough to the facts.
He
And I haven't
visited.
talked to the lawyer, but visited. But I don't know if that was more somebody who had kind of insinuated themselves into this for their own purposes, or whether it was somebody who was invited in. Who knows? I mean, that's up to the judge to get to the bottom of that. I imagine the reason the judge pressed pause, I think one of your producers.
Who allowed this murder memorabilia person to visit her? How did they get on a visiting list? How did they get? I have questions. Oh.
Producers had told me he was retiring in a couple of days. If I got the facts straight, maybe he just wanted to kick the can down the road and let somebody else make the decision.
Oh my God.
Retires on Wednesday. You got that right. Mark Garagos, I always love having you on. This was a really upsetting one. I appreciate you.
Okay. So here, let me drop the link to that one. I forgot to drop the link. Sorry about that, guys. And there's a link to that video if you want to go watch it without my camera. And all the links are in my description box too. So, all right. So let's go over here. So, unfortunately, we don't get to see the whole hearing. They took it off, but we get to see bits and pieces of it with Julie Grant talking. So we're going to have to watch it this way. We don't have any other choice. So it is what it is. So I'm going to drop this link also. So if anybody wants to go watch it without my commentary. Hey, Lola, welcome back, baby girl. Welcome back, baby girl. Her come lay back down. Yeah, her good baby. Yeah, link. Okay. Gotta have my babies here. All right, let's watch this and see what Miss Julie Grant has to say about this. You know what? I won't either, Cindy. Lola. Lola. Mom calls her Lolita. So, yeah, she's my precious girl. Okay, here we go. Play.
One of the girls behind the so-called Slenderman attempted murder trial was scheduled to be released from custody as early as today. Defendant Morgan Geyser was 12 years old when she and another girl stabbed their classmate 19 times. Geyser was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Now the time has come for modified conditional release for her. So what's this mean, and what does the community have to say? Well, according to the city attorney, there are concerns.
Because all we know at this point is that she's going to be placed in a community that's a densely populated residential area with close proximity to a number of schools, daycares, and parks. And our residents, if they find out about this, will be outraged, and they understand that the plan is confidential, but unfortunately, due to the notoriety of this case, I think if our residents see Ms. Geyser outside of the home or taking a walk in the neighborhood with supervision, they will be aware of who she is.
So this is kind of like a step down facility. You know, she's going from the facility where she monitored 24/7 to one with much less monitoring. There's activities there, knitting, gardening, sewing, blah, blah, blah. But is she going to be a danger to anybody at that facility, or if she's out, because it's far less restrictive than the custody she's been in for the last several years? Let's talk about this. Let's bring back in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mario Gallucci and parenting and family relationship expert, psychologist Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Great to have you both. And Mario, I felt so bad we lost you there earlier. I think we got you back. Cross fingers. Let me start with you here, please. Your thoughts on Morgan Geyser. Should the community be worried about this woman?
So she was not convicted. She was found not guilty by reason of insanity. So that's not a conviction. You don't go to prison. You go to a state mental hospital where you are regularly evaluated by doctors and given treatment. And at this point, doctors have evaluated her and said that she is not a danger to herself or to the community, and that she should go to this step-down facility, which is not really a release. I mean, you weren't in jail, so you're not in custody. You're in a hospital setting. People don't understand that. People think that not guilty by reason of insanity means that you stay in the facility forever. You don't. I mean, sometimes it ends up being longer than a prison sentence if you never become stable again. But it seems like she's progressed. She was a young child at the time of the stabbing. She's now older, and doctors believe that she's not a threat to herself or the community.
Mario, thank you for the explainer there. It's wonderfully helpful for anybody who hasn't worked in the criminal system. Yeah, you're right. I mean, at some point, people like Morgan Geyser can be let go. And then the question is, okay, is she going to continue to be stable? Dr. Sue, this is where I want to bring you in here. We know when she's in the facility, you know, the state hospital, obviously she's going to be checked and rechecked, and there's so much monitoring. But here at this step down, not as much in.
My mic was muted, sorry. But we also know that she got in trouble in the facility. So if she's had incidents and troubles in the facility and they're all just like, okay, let's it's only been what 10, 12 years and let's talk about releasing her. Get out. How's she going to act in public if she's having problems in the facility?
In terms of the mental health evaluation process, or at least not as frequently, perhaps, for her. They're going to try to reacclimate her into life. Does that concern you as a psychologist?
Yes, and in fact, this whole thing concerns me because what I want to bring up here is one name, Peyton Lautner, who was stabbed 19 times by this young girl. Look, she was 12 years old when this happened, and I understand this, but in a step-down facility, I don't know if that's the best thing here because it is less monitoring, right? She's going to be in a facility where she's going to have a lot more privileges. She's going to be wearing, I think, a rest monitor on her ankle. But to me, she needs to still be monitored very, very closely. There is a history of schizophrenia within this family. And what concerns me the most is what she was first said the facility that she was going to be brought down to was right near Peyton Lautner. I feel like everyone is forgetting that Peyton Lautner was a traumatized victim by this young girl who stabbed her 19 times, Julie. That's a lot. And so this whole thing concerns me right now. I believe she should have stayed where she was for a very long time.
Dr. Sue, appreciate it. And we're going to talk much more with you in our next hour. We're going to do a big deep dive into this case. Thank you for recognizing victim Peyton Lautner. Mario, I want to share with you something. The prosecutor noted at the last court hearing said that the victims were notified of what was a change in placement for Morgan Geyser. As you know, Mario, she was supposed to go to one facility that was going to be even less restrictive than the one she's going to be released to now. And the family said, well, now with this change, with a little more restrictions, more activities, more monitoring, perhaps, it's the lesser of two evils, they said. Mario, thinking like, do me a favor, think like a prosecutor for a second, not like the wonderful criminal defense attorney that you are, like a prosecutor back in the day. What might you say to Peyton Lautner's family? What might you say to them when they don't want to see this release happen right now? But as you noted moments ago, legally, you know, it's going to happen at some point.
So it's important that prosecutors have a very good relationship with their victims. And in this case, they made the victim notification, letting them know that she's going to go down to the step-down facility. They also had the opportunity to have this young lady evaluated by their own doctors. And I believe they're having a hearing today. At that hearing, they can contest the report from the facility she's in now. If they have their own doctors evaluate her and they think that she could be a threat to the community or herself, then maybe she stays in that facility. That's basically what that hearing is for today. So there is an opportunity for them to be heard, for the victims to have some input into that. And you would tell your victims, look, we had her evaluated by our own team of doctors and they agree with the facility. Well, they don't agree with the facility. And now it's going to be up to the judge. But they're doing everything possible to keep them in the loop, which is what you're supposed to be doing as a prosecutor. Keep your victims, keep your witnesses, everybody in the loop.
That's all really helpful. Mario Gallucci, thank you so much for weighing in. I'm sorry, our time was cut short today. I know you had a big high-profile trial to get to. Thank you for making time for us. We'll see you soon. Dr. Sue Kornbluth is coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, we're going to continue our coverage with the Slenderman stabbing case and the latest from Morgan Geyser. That is all for opening statements, folks. If you like the episode, share it with your friends. It's a little bit from Morgan Geyser. She is set to be released possibly as early as today. Welcome to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. Geyser became infamous because of the Slenderman stabbing case. She's now 22 years old, and she's set to be released from a state facility. She's been in a state hospital since her trial ended, and she's going to step down to a group home and start the process of reintegration into the community. So she's been in the psychiatric hospital since she lured her former classmate to a park and stabbed that classmate, Peyton Lautner, 19 times, as you heard her say, just there in the courtroom. Let's get you caught up now on the facts of this case. Court TV anchor Michael Ayala has more.
I just want to let Ella and her family know I'm sorry. Never meant this to happen.
That's Morgan Geyser at her sentencing hearing after pleading guilty to a brutal stabbing that left her friend clinging to life. Geyser and another girl, Anissa Wire, stabbed fellow sixth grader Peyton Bella Lutner after a sleepover at Geyser's home. The girls, who were 12 years old, claimed they carried out the attack over their belief in a fictional internet horror character named Slenderman.
I believed that if I didn't go through with it, Slenderman would come and attack and kill myself, my friends, and my family.
Wire pleaded guilty to being a party to second-degree homicide, while Geyser pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Both girls were deemed not responsible for their actions because of mental illness and ordered to serve their sentences at mental health facilities. 25 years for Anissa Wire, 40 years for Geyser. At a separate plea hearing, the girls described what happened as they attacked their friend on that spring day in 2014.
Morgan asked me whether or not she should do it, and I just wanted it to be over with, so I said, just go berserk, do what you have to do.
I came up from
Go
behind
berserk?
her. I jumped on her.
I don't remember her saying that.
I tackled her, and I stabbed her.
Do you know how many times you did it?
19.
Their victim, 12-year-old Peyton Lutner, was stabbed in her arms, legs, chest, and torso and had multiple surgeries to repair her internal injuries. Anissa Wire was granted conditional release in 2021. Morgan Geyser is requesting conditional release from the mental health facility where she's been kept since 2017.
Michael Ayala reporting there. So let's revisit her path to release. Let's go back to the hearing from last week. Here we go.
This is a little bit like Groundhog Day, because the last time I appeared, I did this too, but it keeps changing a little bit.
No.
On January 9th of 25, my predecessor, Judge Boren, ordered.
You know, that's why I have such a big problem with the stuff and you know, unfortunately, you know, like PlayStation and Xbox and stuff has introduced so many games, and they're I mean, as an adult, you play what you want, but as a kid, I think there should be limitations on that. Just my thoughts.
That Ms. Geyser be released under a conditional release plan. On March 6th, 25, there was a subsequent petition to revoke the release plan, which Judge Boren denied. On April 28th of 25, there was a hearing on the first plan where we discovered an issue about the proximity to the victim is discovered, and we tried to reset and do it again. On July 9th, and that's when I take over, a new conditional release plan is submitted. On July 16th, I get an addendum and rules for the plan. I hold a hearing, the court holds a hearing on July 17th and require two additional components, but conditionally approve the plan. One is that I get control, or the court gets control, over any change in placement or removal of GPS monitoring. On July 18th, the revised plan is submitted in accordance with the court's instruction. And if receiving no objections, I indicated I approve the plan on July 25th. And then this week, a new plan is filed, changing location and some other details, mostly specific identifying the treatment providers. I did go through it line by line, but I'm going to start with my question is, why are we changing the plan?
Thank you, Judge. I think that question, is it okay if I start?
Absolutely. Okay, if anybody can answer the question,
yeah, I can answer the question because I've spoke with Ms. Graff 2 or 3 times about that. So basically the bottom line is that the original home that had been proposed, as you know, was generally in the Manitowoc area. That home, as I understand it, was essentially being, and I don't want to misstate anything, we have Ms. Graff here, but it was essentially being built for Ms. Geyser, if you will. There were no other residents there. There were no other patients that were going to be at that facility. It was just going to be Ms. Geyser.
What?
That had been approved. Nobody had a problem with that. After the hearing, I learned from DHS that they had found what they considered to be a more suitable location for Ms. Geyser. That's why you mentioned Sun Prairie at the beginning of this hearing. The Sun Prairie facility, generally, as I understand it, has 2 or 3 additional residents that are there. It's been a place that's been in existence for a longer period of time. It offers more treatment services for Ms. Geyser. It's my understanding that she would have more access to services at that home, things like sewing, for example, or knitting, some excursions, maybe some gardening. And so it was DHS's position that that facility was better. And obviously they're under the statutes under 971-17. Once the court approves the conditional release, DHS has to formulate the plan. So they had presented the plan to you. After that hearing, they called me because I've been involved in Ms. Geyser's life now for 12 years. And they said, you know, what's your thought about this home? My thought all along has been, Judge Bourne approved her release back in January. I just want her to move on to the next phase. That's my overarching concern, and Morgan's too. But obviously, if you have,
I was thinking the same thing, Abellis. A whole house just for her release. No other patients. Get out. I mean, come on.
Facility that's been in existence for a longer period of time. I imagine there's cost savings associated with that as well, probably because it's not being customized, built, so to speak, for Ms. Geyser. It sounded like there was somebody, maybe some age appropriate person who might have been there also, so she could have some interaction with a peer that's her age. So what I said to them, Judge, in the interest of transparency, I just said, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to stand, it's not my job to stand in the way of DHS. If you think Sun Prairie is better, then submit it and we'll see what happens with that. So that's the background. That's why you got that modified plan. And then there was basically the treatment all remained the same. There's different providers, but the condition hasn't changed. There's been no change with Ms. Geyser that necessitated them changing the home. It's not like she became more dangerous, for example, and they needed a more secure facility. It was strictly from a holistic perspective. They felt this facility was better, and that's why they offered it.
Well, let's talk about this hearing now. Let me bring in our guest, still with me, parenting and family relationship expert, author, and psychology expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth, and law enforcement expert. I recently got her honorary doctorate degree, Dr. Sunny Slaughter. I love having you two on the program. You two know each other, and so this is fantastic. We can have you do some analysis on this Geyser case because I am definitely concerned. It's one of these cases where I understand that legally she has rights. We can't keep her forever. If she appears stable, she can be released. But also, I think of this as somebody in the public who would be terrified to live near this girl. I think she's just could be a problem waiting to happen. So it's how do we force her to make sure she continues with her treatment? This is tough. Sunny, let me go to you first here. Your thoughts on the safety aspect, the community safety. How great do you think this concern is with Morgan Geyser?
Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Dr. Sue. Glad to be on with both of you, and particularly for this case. Okay, so I have concerns. And my first concerns start with the hearing that we just saw, where the state doesn't know what they are doing. They need to get it together. And that is my first concern, is that they don't have it together enough and they're changing things. And last minute, this has been going on for a long time. My other concerns are exactly like yours, Julie. She's been away for a long time. This was a brutal and heinous attempted murder. And I am not 100% sure about our mental health capabilities in our systems. And I just want the public to be aware. Everyone should be notified that she's in the area. They should be aware if they see any suspicious to report it, but they also should not target her. She does have a right to acclimate back to society. That is what our criminal justice system does, but they need to keep every available lens on her until we have sure proof that she is not a danger to the public. And that is law enforcement's job. They are going to need to be on ready at all times.
Yes, Sunny, thank you for all of that. Important points there. Dr. Sue, let me ask you please about the window of time. So backing up, this girl was 12 years old when she did this awful crime. And we know, there was premeditation involved. She and that other friend, Anissa Weirs, the other girl's name, lured Peyton Lautner into the woods to do this stabbing. Brutal. As you indicated earlier, Dr. Sue, 19 stab wounds. This was incredible. I think it caught the nation by storm when you heard these children hurt another child in this way. It's unconscionable. Now she's 22, so we've got 10 years between the event and now. Dr. Sue, what do you think about that amount of time for treatment?
Great question, Julie. I think 10 years is a long time, right? The brain develops over that time in different ways. And, she was monitored. So could there be change in her? Absolutely, there could be. The issue that I believe here is that she was deemed mentally ill at the time it happened. So that doesn't just go away. So what is really important here with this change is that if she's on medication, is that going to be monitored? Or is she just going to be taking the medication on her own? I know this is a step down. Okay. But sometimes in step downs, the level of monitoring somebody that has a mental illness also goes down too. And that is scary for this community. And so I have great concern about whether or not she's ready to be reintegrated into society. Yes, it's 10 years, but mental illness, Julie and Sunny, does not just go away.
Excellent points, Dr. Sue. Excellent points. I have more questions I want to ask you about because you got me thinking. Not all these facilities are exactly the same. So much of it's dependent upon the facility where she's going.
Right. And how are they monitored when they go to these facilities? I mean, is there somebody that comes in weekly, monthly? Do they report? Does the owner of the facility have to report to somebody? I have so many questions. I've never even thought about these kind of facilities and what they can and cannot provide and what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, big. You both know. You both know. Every state is like that. You know, sometimes you could. Oh, okay, this is reassuring. She's going there, or oh, yikes, you're going there. So here's what we're gonna do. We got to hit our first break. Sunny Slaughter, Sue Cornblue, stand by kindly, please. We'll hit a break. We'll continue with this release plan that could go into effect today. Morgan Geyser could be walking free as early as today. We'll be right back.
Yeah, but her saying walking free as early as today, she's not actually walking free. So Julie, back up your statement, sweetie.
I just want to let Ella and her family know I'm sorry. Never meant this to happen. I hope that she's doing well.
Morgan Geyser set to be released today from a mental health facility. This after a judge signed off on the move last week. Geyser's now 22 years old. She'll soon transition out of that state psychiatric hospital setting into a group home. She's been at that particular psych hospital for the last 7 years after luring a former classmate into a park and stabbing her 19 times. Geyser claims that she committed the act to please the fictional character Slender Man. This hour, we're playing back some key moments from her last motions hearing last week, which led to the judge's release decision. Let's go back into the courtroom together now.
I thought it was appropriate that we come back together. I also think it's appropriate that the victims would have an opportunity to be heard. We did comply with victim rights legislation, and I can tell the court that the department also spoke with the victims about this change. What I can tell the court, the victims don't wish to address you directly today, but I do have some kind of background information that I think can help give you at least some semblance of understanding of how this is quite a different process from the last, from the co-defendant that was released, simply because all of this plan is sealed and confidential. And so it's very difficult for the victims because they're not able to know anything about the plan. And so they kind of feel like they're in a position of having to just basically trust what they're being told by the department. They appreciated the discussion that the department had with them about the differences between the facilities, and it sounds like they did have quite a lengthy conversation about, I'm assuming, kind of what Attorney Cotton just informed the court, but in more detail. And I think that after that conversation, they felt sort of like this new facility was perhaps the lesser of two evils, and they thought potentially that would be a safer place for placement. But in the end, they really have no insight into what the terms of the plan are. And so their overarching request is just that you, judge, do your due diligence and use your best judgment to make sure that the placement is going to offer the most protection for their daughter, the victim. Because they don't know what's in the plan. That's really all they can do is ask that you use your due diligence. So they are also thankful that the hearing got set today. They're here. And so those were that, in addition to, again, a little bit of frustration with the delay and the not really understanding why this has all happened after we seemingly had a plan and now we're back again. Other than that, those were kind of the feelings that I wanted to relay to you on behalf of the victim, and just note that we are in compliance with victim rights legislation. I don't have a lot of insight into the minutia of the differences between these facilities. So I don't feel equipped to offer you any type of opinion on, I would rely on the victim's wishes. I know that they seemed to believe that this newer placement might be more appropriate, but I would really leave it to you to ask the questions that you think need to be asked of the department to determine why this change was made and why this placement is better. Understanding that at the end of the day, the conditional release was granted. And so we need to make a decision here at a point in time where we can move forward to the next step. And I understand that, the victims understand that, and that's hopefully something that we can accomplish. So those are really my thoughts.
All right, so let's get some thoughts from our expert guests. Let's bring back in Dr. Sue Kornbluth and Dr. Sunny Slaughter. Okay, let's pick what kind of...
Y'all notice when I'm backing up just 5 seconds. Watch when these ladies come up. When they're I still been fighting this damn fly. I swear. You don't see me, I'm over here swatting and stuff. Okay, sorry about that. Squirrel. Yeah. Okay. Watch when these two ladies come up. They're both shaking their head no as soon as the cameras come on.
Yes, let's bring back in Dr. Sue Kornbluth and Dr. Sunny Slaughter. Okay, let's pick up kind of where you're both shaking your heads. Oh, that was the reaction to what we just saw. I'm going to hold my question and just let you two go. All right, Dr. Sue, go ahead, please.
I have like steam coming out of my ears right now. Like, what in the world is our justice system doing? Let me just say this right off the bat. When you sentence somebody to 40 years for stabbing someone, and I know they were 12 years old, okay? But it was premeditated. She was delusional, believing in the Slender Man. And then she went and got her other friend involved to do this. What message are we sending out to the world? That you can stab somebody, get 40 years, and get out in 7 years? This is not sending a good message out to the world or our youth. Another thing, what is she stepping down to? A group home? A group home isn't really a mental health lockdown facility. A group home, you have privileges in. You can go out on trips, putting her back into the community. Who in the right mind would put her first back in the community 8 miles from where Peyton lived? I just don't understand what is going on here. Am I crazy?
No, not at all. I preach, Dr. Sue. I'm with you. I am with you. I know Sunny is too. Sunny, go ahead, my friend. Your thoughts.
Oh my goodness, Sue, Dr. Sue, yes, 100% on it. Let me just say this. First of all, the judge knows nothing except for what he is reading in a report. He has never gone to these facilities. He has never assessed them. He is taking the words of people who are in the community, so-called working with these.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was wanting to know. Who regulates this? How do we know what's going on?
Oh, that is absolutely not enough. They need a third party entity or individuals to assess these facilities and the facility that she's going to and assess the protocols that they're going to have in place. Dr. Sue, please call them, let them know that you are available, and I will do the oversight for what these facilities are. She is stepping down, and as Dr. Sue, stepping down into what? Stepping down into the community who has not been prepared. They have not met with the community. They have not had these conversations. They have not addressed the concerns of the community. They have not really addressed the concerns of the victim. This is not how we should be saying that we are going to provide public safety to the public after a 12-year-old and her friend were able to stab someone 19 times. If she did it at 12 watching television, and right now we are seeing what is happening on television now, what is she going to do later? Because now she can watch whatever she wants to watch. Things can happen. I am very concerned. This is not how we should do this. If the plan was disrupted so fast and so quick after they supposedly did it, then this means they are not ready.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm with you, Sunny. Yes. Thank you for all of that. And to your point, what's the rush? What is the rush with this girl? Like when we think about it, let's just stop and pause here. This was a bad crime. I could.
That is a good point. What is the rush? What is the rush? What is the rush? Why?
Agree with you ladies more. You've given us brilliant insight here. And when we think about it, why are we pushing to have her released now? There's no rush in the world here. And you're right, Sunny, they didn't have their act together. They were going to release her to a place about 8 miles from where Peyton Lautner lives. And then they all went, oops, we don't need to do that. Let's back up and reset. And they come from another plan. And then in March, let me just remind everybody what came up in March in court. I forgot about this for a second. I had to go back to our reporting. There was a concern brought up in the courtroom in March that while she's in this psych facility, she's reading books with a theme of sexual sadism and the sale of human organs on the black market. These are her interests. Her interests. I know. So yeah, exactly. So Dr. Sue, yeah, please. If this is where her mind's going, you think she needs some more?
Julie, it's screaming she doesn't need to be released. By the way, I think you missed one thing that I read last night. She was sending photos to somebody outside of jail of decapitated human beings.
Yes.
Get out. What? Oh my stars. Lola, you hear this crazy shit? Hey, look at me when I'm talking to you. She's looking at me out the corner of her eye. She's like, Mom, hush.
Oh my.
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my.
Is
We'll
the
work to
judge
confirm
not
that. Thank you for
reading
that. We'll
this?
work to confirm that.
Yeah,
That's
please.
horrible. That's horrible if that's true.
yeah. God.
Thank you for that. But I mean, we did confirm, we know for sure it was on the record that she's reading about sexual sadism and selling human organs on the black market.
Yes.
Is that normal, Dr. Sue, for a 22-year-old? I mean, this is a 22-year-old who tried to kill someone.
I don't think so. No, it is absolutely
I would not. I
not.
mean, I would not. And right, excellent person to release, Hannah. I mean, you wouldn't think that kind of books would be available. I mean, who has oversight on that? Where did she get these books? Where did she get these photographs? Who's got who?
Normal. This to me screams psychosis. So how could 3 therapists say that she is deemed well to go out into society? I just don't get it. I'm really shaking my head on this one. She belongs to stay in that facility for much longer until she's not doing these behaviors that are so concerning to society. And if I was Peyton, because she is 22 years old now, I'd really be trying to block this. But Julie, she's scared to death too, Peyton. She's been through so much trauma. Who is thinking about her? Who's protecting her now from this scary, scary, scary human being that's going to be released?
That's a great question, Dr. Sue. I'm with you. My heart breaks for Peyton Lautner. You're right. She's been through so much trauma. Her family's been through so much trauma. This has to be very disappointing, and look, it's not my case. If it were my case, I would be jumping up and down in that courtroom to keep her in that psych hospital. I would be. That's just me.
Yep.
It's the kind of prosecutor I was. If I saw somebody as a potential threat and a danger to society, and obviously these prosecutors may feel differently, don't know, but we'll see what happens when she's out. Who's going to take responsibility if something bad happens? I sure don't know. Dr.
right.
Sue, I know that you have clients to see, patients to see, and we have to let you go. Thank you for being so generous with your time this morning. It was great having you on both opening statements and Court TV Live. We will talk again soon. And we've got Sunny for all this hour and for our next hour. So stand by, Sunny, please. We'll hit a break. When we come back, more of the hearing to let Morgan Geyser go free, go to a group home where she's not going to have the monitoring that she's had over the last 7 years since she took that plea deal in the stabbing of her classmate. We'll be right back.
Morgan asked me whether or not she should do it, and I just wanted it to be over with. So I said, just go berserk, do what you have to do.
I came up from behind her. I jumped on her. I tackled her. And I stabbed her. I just want to let Ella and her family know I'm sorry. Never meant this to happen.
Morgan Geyser set to be released today from a mental health facility after a judge signed off on a release for her on Thursday. She's 22 years old now. She'll transition from a state psychiatric hospital into a group home setting. She's been in the state hospital for the past 7 years. She stabbed her classmate Peyton Lautner 19 times back in the year 2014 to please a fictional character named Slenderman. Let's go back into the courtroom for more key moments from Geyser's motions hearing last week.
The city attorney for Sun Prairie is here. Do you have a response to that?
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with Attorney Cotton's assessment of the statute. My concern is that we are given this notice. I don't even believe we're aware of the release date until just now when he indicated that. And so we were informed yesterday that Ms. Geyser was going to be placed in our community. And I understand that she needs to be released, and she needs to be released somewhere that can provide an appropriate level of care. My concern is with this particular placement within our community because of its location and without knowing any of the conditions of the conditional release plan, which I understand we can't know under 5130. It's very hard for us to ascertain whether or not this could truly be an appropriate placement, whether or not our police department will be able to adequately serve the needs of the community under the plan, because all we know at this point is that she's going to be placed in a community that's a densely populated residential area with close proximity to a number of schools, daycares, and parks. And our residents, if they find out about this, will be outraged, and they understand that the plan is confidential, but unfortunately, due to the notoriety of this.
Stop. Stop.
Area with close proximity to a number of schools, daycares, and parks. And our residents, if they find out about this, will be outraged. And I understand that the plan is confidential, but unfortunately, due to the notoriety of this case, I think if our residents see Ms. Geyser outside of the home or taking a walk in the neighborhood with supervision, they will be aware of who she is.
Well, I guess you agree with Attorney Cotton's assessment of the statute? I thought that was the first thing you said.
Yeah, I think he's correct that we don't necessarily have the ability to object. I appreciate that the court let us appear this morning and at least reviewed our material. I believe we have an obligation to our residents, and our police chief is here as well, to object to this particular placement, given where it's located within the city.
Well, and you also said, because my initial thought, I've got to be honest, before everybody agrees what the statute means, apparently, was that I was going to give you some time to formulate specific objections and present them. But what you're telling me is because you can't see the plan anyway, you're not going to be able to do that. And it's just the general idea that Ms. Geyser is going to be placed in the community that is causing you concern.
I think it's this particular location within our community. I don't think we would ever have any grounds to completely object to someone being placed anywhere within our city. Our broader concern is this specific location. And because no one believes they're able to share the plan with us, which I understand given the strict statutory regulations, we can't review it to determine whether or not we feel more comfortable with it, when we feel more comfortable explaining what occurred to our residents if they find out. If we know that there were significant conditions, we have no idea what the conditions are. It's our understanding previously that this was a care home for developmentally disabled adults. We didn't want to reach out to the homeowners and speak with them because we didn't want to breach any of the confidentiality of the statute. Our real struggle is whether or not this specific placement is appropriate. And I would just ask the court to specifically examine that, because the court does know what the conditional release conditions are and the part of the plan is. We don't. So all we know is that we were informed yesterday that someone was going to be released into our community, into a densely populated residential area, adjacent to a wooded path that travels throughout the community. And we had significant concerns about that for the safety of our community.
Let's speak to, who's here for DHS? Ms. Groff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, can you speak, I assume in determining this place, determining a location for placement, one of the factors you were considered was the location and what was going on around it. Is that right?
That is correct. In any conditional release plan, we look at location. But in Ms. Geyser's case, she's not a sex offender. There's no history or any concern in any of her evals of her being close to any schools, any parks. So that does not raise a major concern, along with all the things we put in place in the plan to mitigate any risk.
Would you want to live next to her? Would you want to stay down the hall from her in the group home? We'll talk more about Morgan Geyser and hear some reaction from her attorney after the break.
Because all we know at this point is that she's going to be placed in a community that's a densely populated residential area with close proximity to a number of schools, daycares, and parks. And our residents, if they find out about this, will be outraged. And I understand that the plan is confidential, but unfortunately, due to the notoriety of this case, I think if our residents see Ms. Geyser outside of the home or taking a walk in the neighborhood with supervision, they will be aware of who she is.
Morgan Geyser set to be released today from a state-run psychiatric hospital. She's 22 years old now. She will step down into a group home setting. She's been in the hospital for the last 7 years. She stabbed her classmate 19 times back in 2014 to please the fictional character Slender Man. Let's go back into the courtroom for more of the key moments from her hearing.
Based on what seems to be the consensus that Sun Prairie really doesn't have standing to object, as both Attorney Cotton and I think the city attorney acknowledged, and more importantly, the findings of DHS that they had adequately investigated this facility, that given the protections that are contained in the plan, which I have reviewed in great detail, which include but are not limited to GPS monitoring, I don't think there's anything inappropriate about this particular placement, and I will produce I will approve the conditional release plan as recently submitted. Anything else? Anybody else want to be heard?
Your Honor, I appreciate you letting the city be here. The city would simply ask for some additional clarification, and perhaps we can have a conversation with Ms. Graff afterwards about what we can do to communicate to our residents should this become a concern. Because our big concern is public transparency. I don't think that Ms. Geyser deserves to be locked inside a house and never be allowed to see the sun. That's not an appropriate placement for anyone. That's inhumane. But I want to make sure that if our residents see her in the community, we have some sort of ability to respond that yes, we were aware, we're comfortable with the plan in place. And I appreciate that everyone is bound by a very strict statute in terms of what they can release to us. But I think anything that we would be able to share with our residents, that we were informed of the placement, that the court approved the plan after ensuring that our residents would be safe, that there is this GPS monitoring, anything that we would be able to share to our residents to kind of assuage them of their safety.
I'm fairly certain that Ms. Graff would be happy to participate in those kind of discussions. Is that right, Ms. Graff?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And I would encourage it. I believe they will do everything possible. This is obviously a difficult situation for everybody. We are trying to balance. We got a lot of spinning plates. We're trying to make it better for everybody moving forward. Let Ms. Geyser move on with her life, keep the community safe. And I think this plan.
He just said, let Miss Geyser move on with her life. I don't like that. I'm not, ugh. Is she going to be on an ankle monitor? They hadn't said that. So if she gets to go walk the neighborhood, she's going to have an ankle monitor. Does she need to have a sign hanging from her like they did back in the 70s and 80s? I did this. I pokeyed somebody how many times? And look, Hannah's on the same thought as me. GPS monitoring. Are her hands going to be tied so she can't get a poke? See, look, we're thinking the same thing. No one's safe. I mean, if she goes walk in the neighborhood, or, can we, like the red scarlet letter, remember all that? Let's, brand her, make her have to wear a big M on her red M shirt with, big red, white shirt with M letter, like, I am what I am. I wouldn't want her walking in my neighborhood. I'm sorry.
And it took us a while to get here, don't get me wrong. I think this is a good balance of all of those concerns, and that's why I'm approving it, and we're going to move forward. Anything else from anybody here today?
No, thank you, Judge.
No, thank you.
Anybody on video? Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
All right, so now let's hear from Morgan Geyser's attorney. Her attorney's reaction to the change in the facilities and how his client is going to be managing her release.
The DHS has found a great spot for Morgan, so it was a very substantive hearing and a good result for her.
What would you say about some of the concerns that the city of Sun Prairie brought up? Just how about maybe their community's reaction to all this?
I appreciate their input, but at the end of the day, Morgan's got to be placed in a facility that's suitable for her, and this is a suitable facility. So she's going to be safe. Like I said last time, I think that she is going to be closely monitored, closely supervised as she transitions back into the community.
This new facility, you mentioned it's got sewing, knitting, potential for gardening. How does Morgan feel about all of that?
Morgan's very excited about being in a place where she would be able to grow as an individual more than the other facility.
Stop. I just had a bad thought, y'all. I just had a bad thought. Oh, do y'all know how to knit? Have you ever seen knitting needles? Oh, that's scary. Wait, knitting needles? And we're going to put her in a home with knitting. Okay. Yeah, no, this is great. This is great. This is where, yeah. Okay, let's do this. Let's give her knitting needles. I mean, pokey.
Which was really very dystopian. She would be the only person there. There was going to be a camera on her at all times. I mean, it just sounded, I suppose, better than being in the institution, but not much. And it didn't offer room for growth. I think what everybody wants is that she will readjust to society. She's been in custody for 10 years now. I mean, imagine being 12 years old and now in your early 20s and you've never left confinement. It's horrible. So this facility really will allow her to grow as a person and I think be a safer and better member of the community.
The last time that we were here, we thought that was the end of it, and now there was another change in the facilities. Are you or is Morgan worried at all that this is just going to continue? There will be a continuing change in facilities?
No, I'm not worried. This is it. She's going to get out. It's going to happen within a week, and she's going to do good. So imagine being somebody who in January is told you can be released within 30 days, and now you're in July going into August, and you still haven't been released. The amount of stress that would put any human being under, let alone a 22-year-old like Morgan, is extraordinary. So if she were to...
Oh, let's talk about Morgan's stress for a minute here. Did we forget what Bella went through? Peyton, excuse me. Her nickname's Bella. But did we forget what Peyton went through? The stress, the horror, and the fear that this young lady now has to deal with, and knowing that her pokey are a bit...
You have issues, you would have seen something develop in that time. The stress didn't cause her to buckle. The stress didn't cause her to relapse and suddenly start becoming violent or have outbursts. In fact, she's weathered this particular storm with, I think, more strength and courage than anybody I've ever represented.
The only other last question for me, if anyone else has anything. There were concerns that Sun Prairie City Attorney felt that they wouldn't be able to explain this to their residents. What would you say to their residents about this release?
It's really not my job to explain the release to the residents. I hope what they say to the people who live in Sun Prairie is that Morgan is going to be very closely supervised, very closely monitored. She will have a team of professionals taking care of her. And if there's even the slightest issue, they know exactly how to take someone into custody and put them right back in in an inpatient facility.
And on that note about the concern.
Question, does she go to inpatient facility or does she go to jail for violating anything? I have a question. I have a question because, yeah, if she violates, will she go to jail? Yes, I noticed that. I did notice that. Maxwell Anderson's lawyer. Be scared, residents. Exactly. Be very scared. This woman is coming to a home near you.
With the city. Is it state law that you have to inform them that this level of a patient is coming in?
Yes, state law requires that the police department be notified that a person is being released to the community, but it really doesn't say that they have the right to object. It's a notification requirement. People should be aware of what is going on in their community, but people have to be released somewhere. And so, if you permit cities to object, then you'd have everybody objecting. You'd never release people.
All right, Morgan Geyser's attorney there. Let's get some reaction from our law enforcement expert guest, Sunny Slaughter. Sunny, what do you think of her attorney's thoughts on this?
I think her attorney is doing what he must. While I may not agree with him, it is the job of the defense counsel to represent their clients with extreme zealous and fervor and to say what he is saying. That is his job. And I think he is representing her well, even though I do not agree with his assessment. I do support defense counsels because it is very important for us to recognize doing his job and to not take it out on him.
Yes, she does have a point. It is his job. We have to recognize that he's doing his job, and we don't have to agree with the way it's being handled.
Personally, because if he wasn't doing his job, I would actually have a problem with that. And I would think that he should be removed. He is saying everything that he needs to say. He believes in his client. He is acting ethically. And that is what he's supposed to do, even though I don't agree.
Yeah, Sunny, thank you for that. Yeah, he's got a job to do, right? He's an advocate for her. So he's being paid to advocate for a particular position. And his concern is Morgan Geyser and Morgan Geyser alone. It's not his job to be concerned about the victim or the safety of the community. It's just not his job. He's protecting her legal rights, as you know, her constitutional rights. Prosecutors, that's another story. Tell me what you think here. Do you think there's been a tough enough fight by the state to keep her in that facility long enough?
Well, I think they can only a prosecutor cannot take the weight. They can listen to the community, but they have to be careful not to take on the role of community in their job as prosecutors. Their job is to follow the law, to address all of the things that are focused on the law, and to think about public safety in a way, but they also can't take too much of the weight from the public, and they also can't take too much of the weight from the victims, which is why they have victims advocates to kind of broad shield them from any over bias. They cannot be biased in their role. They have to be focused on the law, focused on their positions to uphold the law and to do it in a way that is ethical, sound, and reasonable. I think that is what other people are supposed to do, like the victims advocate, to focus on that, and the victims themselves, and for other organizations and entities and individuals to be really forceful in their dismay about what is happening.
Ooh, all right. Okay, so with that, give me just a second. Let me put a stream marker in. All right. Yeah, his mom, the lawyer's mom, was Morgan's original attorney. Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna rotate. We are switching over to Corey Richens. So this was earlier today. Corey Richens, she appeared on camera during a late hearing last Friday. She's accused of taking out her husband and writing a children's book about grief. The hearing is focused on evidence for the case for the upcoming trial, related to her trial. So this talks about some of the evidence and stuff. So I wanted to go over this, and we'll roll right into Corey Richens and see what's going on with her. We got about an hour hearing. So, all right, buckle up. I haven't watched any of this, so we're just going blindly today.
We're on the record at 231-500-139. State of Utah versus Corey Richens. Can I have counsel for the state make their appearances, please?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Brad Bloodworth, Lindsay Shervanack, and Fred Burmester for the state.
And, Ms. Nestor is caught on the attendees list. One moment. Okay, my apologies. Counsel for Ms. Richens, please. You are muted. Let's fix that.
All right, thank
Go
you.
ahead,
Wendy
Ms.
Lewis, Catherine Nestor, and Alexander Ramos for Ms. Richens. And I believe she's present on WebEx.
And let me just confirm. Ms. Richens, can you just confirm that you can hear us okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear okay. All right, very good. You're welcome to turn your video off if you prefer.
Oh, look, just a real quick, because she does turn her video off, I do believe. There's Corey. Let's get a big old looky there. There she is, looking all sad, puppy eyes. All right, she can turn her camera off, I believe.
I'm going to mute your connection just so we don't pick up any unintended
Welcome
background
back, Ava.
All right, counsel, we've got several scheduling issues to discuss. First, Mr. Bloodworth, I think it would be helpful for the state to file an amended information that reflects the dismissal of what was previously numbered as counts 3 and 4, and the severance of what was previously numbered counts 5, 6, 9, and 10. Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor. We can do that too. We can also probably address the redundant charging between the information on the aggravated murder and the recently filed information involving some fraud as well.
Okay. And is that something that you address through? Well, let me take a step back for a moment. My apologies. My anticipation was that contemporaneous with that amendment, a new information reflecting 2 counts of mortgage fraud, 2 counts of forgery from June and August of 2021 would be filed, and that court staff would backdate that information to match whenever those counts were originally filed in this case number. Do you see it differently?
Your Honor, I apologize. I'm not following.
So as it sits today, the most recently filed.
Y'all, I'm over here muted. Did he have a squirrel moment? He's like, Your Honor, I'm not following. What the hell?
Information in this case has 11 counts in it. 2 were dismissed without prejudice on November 12, 2024. Yes. And on the same day, the court made some rulings regarding joinder and by implication severance. And those rulings separated, for the purpose of the upcoming trial, counts 5, 6, 9, and 10, which are mortgage fraud and forgery based upon events alleged to have occurred in June of August in 2021. Those counts need to be severed from the operative information in this case. But the filing date needs to be backdated so that there's no statute of limitations problem.
I understand, Your Honor. Those counts, 5, 6, 9, and 10, are also included in the recently filed information involving Ms. Richens and some other fraud counts as well. So the state will, in essence, dismiss them from the current information because they are charged in the new information.
Now I understand. My apologies. Okay. newest filed case, criminal case against Ms. Richens, I have not seen a summons and I have not seen a warrant. What is the intent on that case?
Your Honor, summons, and I apologize. I thought it was in the information. We can fix that.
Okay.
But it is summons. The state had figured the court would, based upon summons, I guess, conduct an initial appearance and appoint counsel today. But if we can get a summons and do that next week.
Ms. Lewis, have you and Ms. Nestor and Mr. Ramos had a conversation with Ms. Richens about whether you'll be appearing on her behalf in that new case?
Well, we'd have to be asked by the county to do that, and nobody has asked us to do it yet, so we didn't know what was going to happen with that. We're willing to do it, but typically Jenna Young reaches out to me if she wants us appointed or me appointed on something, and that hasn't happened.
I know it is. We have conflict counsel now. I don't know if the contract has changed. No, but the prior contract didn't include capital charges. Folks, this is not something I'm supposed to be getting involved in. I'll reach out. I'll ask Brittany to reach out to understand what the current contract with conflict counsel looks like as it relates to the charges that are in the most recently filed information, and hopefully Ms. Young can provide some clarity. Okay.
Your
Bottom
Honor,
line, Mr. Bloodworth, I don't have a summons yet, so I'm not in a position to hold an initial appearance.
I understand that, Your Honor. We'll address appointment of counsel, I guess, once the court holds an initial appearance. But the preview matters. It's the state's view that it would make sense to appoint Ms. Richens' current defense team, considering the overlap in discovery and information, that kind of thing.
Okay. Perhaps someone from your office can transmit that view to Ms. Young.
Yes, Your Honor, we can probably do that. We try to stay out, as you can imagine. We try to stay out of the appointment of counsel business as well.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take this one step at a time. In case ending 139, if the state would please file an amended information that includes only counts 1, 2, 7, 8, and 11 as the counts going to trial in February.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, anything further on that?
No, Your Honor.
All right. I circulated today a copy of the juror questionnaire that we had previously sent to potential jurors in March. If you all would re-review it, compare notes, and then let the court know whether you propose any changes to it. Can you send me, though, a response on that issue by September 5, Ms. Lewis?
Yes, that'll be fine.
Mr. Bloodworth?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Shervanack, are you handling that issue again?
Probably.
Okay, September 5. All right. You can do it by email, or you can file a stipulated something or competing somethings. I just need to get those to the jury team so they can start getting ready. Okay. Anything further on that, Ms. Lewis?
No, nothing from us.
Ms. Shervanack?
No.
Okay. One moment, folks. Just to review and make sure that we don't need to make any changes, we'll send the questionnaire to 2,000 Summit County jurors. Counsel will receive the completed questionnaires, as many as we get back, by. Okay. Anything further on that, Ms. Lewis?
No, nothing from us.
Ms. Shervinick?
No.
Okay. One moment, folks. Just to review and make sure that we don't need to make any changes, we'll send the questionnaire to 2,000 Summit County jurors. Council will receive the completed questionnaires, as many as we get back, by January 20. February 2nd, 9:30 a.m. in person, we'll hold a hearing to strike jurors for cause based on questionnaire responses and council's review of questionnaires. And then we are scheduled for attorney-conducted voir dire over up to 6 days, February 10 to 13 and February 17 to 18. 2 sessions each day, 8:30 a.m. to noon and 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. each day. It will be 20 jurors in the morning, 20 jurors summoned for each afternoon, and it takes as long as it takes to pass 24 jurors for cause. Ms. Shervinick, you're furrowing your brow.
Why 24?
It's a jury of 8 plus 4 alternates by previous stipulation, and then 8 peremptories per side.
Oh, I see.
No, sorry, 8 peremptories total.
You're talking about having to clear. I see. I thought you were talking about seating 24.
No. Sorry, 24 passed for
I just
cause.
misheard you.
And I want to make sure I didn't, 8 jurors plus 4 alternates plus 8 peremptories per total for a felony case, plus 2 additional per side, given the additional alternates.
Yep.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, any comment on that?
Not at this time. No.
Okay. All right. Then I listened to the last pretrial conference that we had in June. I asked counsel to meet and confer regarding some potential hearing dates to hear motions that have already been filed, including an evidentiary hearing on defendant's motion to exclude state's expert witnesses, which is fully briefed, and then also to come up with some filing deadlines and a potential hearing date for the forthcoming defendant's motions in limine, which Ms. Nestor previously described as substantial. So what have you all come up with?
The state has said whatever we said is fine with them. So we didn't really come up with anything specific, but how far in advance do you want to set these? I mean, we can just get them set now.
All right, let's do this one at a time. The evidentiary hearing on defendant's motion to exclude the state's expert witnesses. Is that half a day? Is it a day?
Y'all, let's not all talk at once here.
I would think we could do it in a half a day. I don't know. Do you disagree, Kathy?
I think it's
or Brad?
I think
you think we need a day?
I think that's what he said.
I agree. It's a day. It'll be 2.
Or
2 experts. I think a half day apiece.
And Mr. Bloodworth, I recall asking this, but I can't recall the answer. It's 2 experts that have been challenged, the profiling expert and the domestic violence expert. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And Mr. Mr. Throckmorton. Okay, so 3 experts: profiling, domestic violence, handwriting. Mr. Throckmorton has produced a written report. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
The domestic violence expert, has that person produced a written report setting forth their opinions, or is it a summary that's been provided by the state?
Your Honor, the state's provided a summary, a proffer of their testimony.
Okay. And then the same question regarding the
The judge's voice does not match his face. It reminds me of hearing my dad speak. My dad has a really, really deep voice. Therefore, that's I have a deep voice for a female, I think, in my opinion. But this judge's voice does not match him. But he has a beautiful voice. I could see him doing radio, commentary, anything of the sort. Beautiful voice.
Profiler.
The state's provided a summary of their testimony, again, a proffer.
Okay. All right. And forgive me, did those 3 productions include the CV for each expert?
Yes, Your Honor, it did.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about 3 experts over the course of a full day. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Counsel, let me ask a categorical question. Do you feel like we need to handle any of these issues prior to January, or can I just plan to spend a lot of time on this case in January?
I don't think we need it before January, Your Honor.
Mr. Bloodworth?
Your Honor, I think early January would work.
Okay. All right, let's begin with this expert witness issue. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, during the week of January 5, are there days that are preferable?
Kathy, I'm open that whole week. Alex, what do you guys have?
If we could avoid Friday the 9th, that would be great. But other than that, I'm open the whole week.
Okay. I don't think we have a calendar.
2026 calendar.
I know we don't have it. I don't think we have a calendar on the 9th, but that's irrelevant.
So maybe the 6th or the 7th, since that will have been right after the holiday weekend, maybe avoid the horrible Monday and do it like Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday.
Well, and then tell me, should we block 2 days in a row? Should we do the expert issues one day and then hear oral argument on the walk the dog letter, the 404B evidence, and defendant's motions in limine on the second day?
I don't know that we're going to be.
I'm muted. I'm over here talking. I'm muted. The walk the dog letter. It's been a while since I heard somebody say walk the dog letter. Walk the dog letter. Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to make a comment.
We may not be ready to do our motions in limine yet. Oh, yes,
Okay.
we will. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. By January, yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Is that enough time if I put all that stuff together?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
So may we block January 7 and 8 for those purposes?
So we're doing 7, 8, not 6, 7. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to need the 5th and 6th to get ready.
Yep.
That works for the defense. Your Honor, I just want to make sure I'm clear though, since that's a full month prior to trial, if something should come up between then and trial, I just want to make sure that I still could file a last minute motion in limine if I need to, but I mean, a vast majority, I will know by then, no problem.
I understand. I think Mr. Bloodworth is likely to ask for the same reasonable accommodation for his team.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's block January 7 and 8 for in-person hearings on the following. On January 7, we will handle defendant's motion to exclude state's expert witnesses. That's docket 883. Let's begin at 9:30 a.m. that day. Then states a motion to determine admissibility of the walk the dog letter, which is docket 913. State's first notice of intent to offer for Rule 404B evidence.
So here's the question. For anybody on the replay crew, anybody watching this on replay, should they include the walk the dog letter as evidence? There you go. That's my question. If you're on the replay crew. Ready?
Docket 865. And then defendant's forthcoming motions in limine will be addressed on January 8, beginning at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you,
Ms. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Blubber.
Oh, sorry.
The state will,
All right, Cindy.
well in advance of them, file its second 404B disclosure. I suspect we'll want to address both at that time.
What's a reasonable filing deadline for the second one?
Your Honor, how about a month out? So whatever, December 8th.
September 5.
I didn't know if you meant a month out from.
Oh, I'm sorry, a month back. You will, yeah, that'll have defense counsel briefing during the holidays and maybe you all as well. Let's avoid. Can we do a little earlier than that? Can we say 6 weeks?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me look at my calendar for a moment. Yeah, why don't we say November 26th?
Yes, sir.
And then Ms. Nestor, Ms. Lewis, can we agree defendant's response to the second notice is December 12 reasonable?
Honor. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then to the extent the state wants to file a reply regarding the second notice, let's just say January 31.
You mean December 31?
I meant December 31.
December 31?
My apologies. December 31. All right. Okay. Ms. Nestor, we need to come up with some similar deadlines related to defendant's forthcoming motions in limine. What sounds reasonable?
Every time the closed caption puts the word limine, motions in limine, it types out the word lemonade. Closed caption needs to get with the program.
Do you want us to just follow that same briefing schedule? I mean, that'd make it simpler.
We can. Works for me if it works for you.
It does.
Mr. Bloodworth?
That works, Your Honor.
Okay. So The deadline for defendants' forthcoming motions in limine is November 26. State's response deadline is December 12. The defendant's deadline to file a reply, if any, is December 31.
And then, Your Honor, the state may have some motions in limine as well. We'll follow the same schedule.
Okay, very good. Okay. All right.
I mean, just to keep, not to beat the dead horse, but I think our exhibit and witness list would be due like 30 days before trial, which would be after my motion in limine filing deadline. So obviously if they file exhibits I'm not expecting, I mean, we'll just file them as soon as we are aware.
Haven't we seen exhibit and witness lists already?
No.
We've seen a
Did we
preliminary witness list, but no exhibit list, and the witness list was very preliminary.
Right, the only thing we saw was
questionnaire,
right,
but we haven't filed our formal disclosure.
Understood. Why don't we just set a much earlier deadline? Wouldn't you rather see that before you're filing motions in limine?
No.
Yes, well.
I don't know. Can I see theirs and not show them
That's what I was gonna say. We'd like theirs, but we don't want to file ours yet.
I wanted the latest possible date to file my witness list, please. But exhibit list, I don't mind doing in advance, I guess. I don't know. I'd like a late date on that too.
I guess we should think about that.
Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, I have a sense that you have a pretty good idea of who is on your will call and may call list and what's on your exhibit list. Is it possible for the state to file a list of will call and may call witnesses and your exhibit list? Bear with me. By October 31.
Your Honor, it is possible, but these filings are designed to be reciprocal.
Well, only one of you has the burden of proof, though. And so I imagine who they're calling is going to matter depending on who's on yours and what's on yours. And the burden's not reciprocal. And so I think there's some value in staging them here, given the briefing deadlines.
If the court orders it, the state will comply.
I think this would help move things along efficiently. Yeah, so October 31, states will call, may call witness list and exhibit list, understanding that in the run-up to trial, amendments happen. Now, Ms. Nestor, you're going to have to commit to a deadline of some kind. What's reasonable?
February 20th?
Well, I think the rules provide for 30 days prior. So if we want to do it, 45 or 60 days prior, I guess. But
I think the rule is 14 days.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, then 14 days. That works out great.
Oh, hold on.
I'm thinking of federal court. I'm sorry. It is 30 in federal.
February 6th.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me write that down.
And obviously, we are not producing on our exhibit list anything we're going to use solely for impeachment, only what we're introducing in our case in chief.
I think the state's probably applying the same rule.
Yeah.
Okay. One moment. All right, let's talk about jury instructions for a second. I previously stated on the record that I didn't expect the jury instructions in this case to be particularly complicated, but I may regret that. And so let's come up with a reasonable deadline for you folks to meet and confer regarding proposed jury instructions, and then to file whatever you can stipulate to, and then your requested additional instructions that are not stipulated.
To hear and
We don't have to have that nailed down at the start of the trial. I don't have to have decided what the jury instructions are going to look like at opening statements unless there's a particular instruction you want to discuss in your opening. But I need to force you all to begin that discussion prior to the commencement of trial. Ms. Nestor, what sounds reasonable?
Well, if maybe we could do it before that 7th and 8th, so that if we spot that we have a big issue, we could just lump it into that discussion with you.
That's fine. So here, let's do Did I really know? Okay. Ms. Shervanek, are you going to be in charge of jury instructions?
Your Honor, I'll probably handle that.
All right, forgive me, folks, for a little inside baseball here. Mr. Bloodworth, are you trying the Patterson case, or is Ms. Shervanek trying it?
Your Honor, that may be me or Mr. Hill.
All right, so I just need to make sure that I don't double book you here. Mr. Bloodworth, what is a reasonable deadline for the state to send its proposed jury instructions? Don't worry about opening instructions. I just need elements, evidentiary instructions, the things that would typically be in the closing instructions to the defense.
Your Honor, we can do that late September.
Okay. If you would send your proposal to defense counsel by September 26th.
October, sir?
No, I think
Or September?
September 20th.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
September 26th. Gotcha.
Is a Friday. If you would send to defense counsel state's proposed jury instructions, and then Ms. Nestor, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Ramos, how about October 31 for defense counsel to respond to those proposals with, we stipulate to this instruction or we don't, and here are some additional instructions that we propose.
Okay.
Like the motions in limine, like the witness and exhibit lists, I understand that the exigencies of trial may require the proposal of additional instructions as trial progresses, but to the extent we can do some of this heavy lifting early, it will inure to the benefit of all of us. All right. Brittany, do you get those two? Okay. No, I'm gonna end up doing it live. Okay. Aside from another pretrial conference, that's everything I had on my list. Mr. Bloodworth, did you have anything else you need to discuss today?
Your Honor, not on this case. We did file the summons in the new case while we've been talking. So if the court wanted to schedule an initial appearance now, if the court's inclined to appoint a defense team.
I mean, there is a statute that talks about whom I can appoint, and it requires me to have information regarding what the terms of the contract with the current roster of conflict counsel is. So I need to build in some time to get that response from Ms. Young.
Understand, Your Honor.
Yeah. If you all would like me to put an initial appearance on the calendar, I can. I can just put it out a couple, 3-4 weeks while we figure that out.
I think we should wait until we know what's going on, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. We'll get that information, Ms. Young, figure out what I have the authority to do, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, Mr. Bloodworth, I interrupted you. Anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Shernick?
No.
Mr. Burmester?
No.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, anything else the defense wanted to discuss?
No, Your Honor.
Well, Alex.
Oh, Alex.
I'm sorry. Mr. Ramos?
There's two issues that I saw come up as we were preparing for the last trial, and it's more of a practical issue that obviously didn't come to fruition because of the trial date cancellation. But as we were leading up to trial, discovery was continuously produced, and we understand that's something. We also understand that the facts of this case are, in a sense, very much in a silo. We have continued to get discovery, and if that's going to continue to happen, we'd like to request some sort of deadline. Preparing for a case like this, Judge, if it was just a murder case would be one thing. Now with just with the fraud elements of it, it is getting extremely messy. It's extremely difficult.
And my mic is muted. I'm over here talking away. I said I had to make a comment here because he says it's getting extremely messy. It's been messy, and your client made it messy, sir.
To see what's new, what's not. So I would like to try to find a way where we can limit that. One, and then the second thing, which is related, Judge, is in terms of the witnesses for the state, the exhibits. One thing that I think would be beneficial and really speed things up is, of course, we get an idea of who they're going to call and maybe what they're going to ask. But certainly having summaries of, hey, witness one is going to testify to, X, Y, and Z, and these A through G exhibits are tied to them to that would be extremely helpful. Otherwise, what I fear is we're going to show up and there's like 40 plus witnesses and we're like, well, yeah, we have the discovery. We know what they said, but had we had some of it, maybe we don't even ask any questions, right? So it's more of trying to streamline the process, Judge. Those are just two things that came up, and I am very concerned that it's going to get worse.
He said streamline it, but from what I had read, they are giving this 5 weeks to do a trial. So, and I'm invested in this guy, so this will be one that I do cover.
Can I jump on to the back of what Alex just said? I thought he said it very well. But I'm not even sure the court is aware of this, but we're at 10 terabytes of discovery in this case. It is the largest amount of discovery I've ever had in any case, and I have done complex fraud. They've gone back and found every human being that's ever spoken to Corey Richens, ever. So the concern is, for example, if they're planning on calling like 15 witnesses that are just to create foundations for pictures, we don't even need them to testify. Like, we'll just agree these pictures are pictures of what the house looked like or what, her childhood home looked like or whatever the heck they're going to put in, and save potentially days and days and days of trial. So we're not doing it to add to their workload unnecessarily. We really are trying to determine, are there witnesses that are being called solely for foundation that we can say, hey, you don't need to do that. If you're calling them to put in, bank records, we agree to the bank records, cancel one less witness. This case has become ridiculous in terms of the amount of evidence. And when I say evidence, I don't mean anything that has anything to do with whether she killed her husband or not. I'm talking about just the universe of prosecuting Corey Richens has become outrageous. So I guess I don't want it to sound like we're trying to make them give us an unfair advantage. We're trying to eliminate days and days of unnecessary, pointless trial days. So I just wanted to add that to what Alex had to say.
So let's break this down a little bit. With respect to a deadline by which the drawbridge will be raised and the information inside the Discovery Castle here will be set, Mr. Bloodworth. I can appreciate why there may have been rolling productions in the past as additional forensic downloads or analysis of electronically stored information occurred, but we should be beyond that point now. Have we produced the discovery that is in the state's possession or control?
Have.
Okay. And aside from some kind of realization that something got left out, analysis has, at least searches and analysis are concluded. The universe has been produced.
It's hard to say, Your Honor. If it relates to some of the 404B evidence, perhaps not. As it relates to some of the more core evidence, if the court will, then I believe it has. You know, we could always find some additional information, but I'm not anticipating that.
All right.
I think the question you need to ask is, are you still issuing subpoenas? Because as recently as 2 months ago, they're issuing subpoenas to try to find new evidence. I mean, it's off the chart.
But I'm not sure that's unlawful or against the rules, Ms. Nestor.
No.
Here, I need to make sure I keep it fair in terms of making sure that you get fair disclosure of discovery and, of course, potentially exculpatory information under Rule 16. And I hear you, Mr. Ramos, like at some point, we need to know what the universe is so we can prepare. So let me fast forward for a moment. Hold on a second. I apologize for cutting you off. Let me at least let you know where I'm headed, and then you can tell me why it may or may not work. I've set a pretty early witness list and exhibit list deadline of October 31. That would seem to be, starting November 1, an opportune time to actually sit down with counsel for the state in the fashion that I asked you to do before today, but which sounds like didn't actually happen, and go through the exhibit list and say, we'll stipulate to authenticity and foundation for all of these exhibits. So to the extent you're calling witnesses to say, the Rule 90 whatever, foundation for these exhibits, you don't need to. We'll stipulate that those are authentic, and we're just going to reserve our relevance or cumulative or unnecessary objections for trial. That would seem to be a way to start cutting through this. No?
Right, but if they have like 10,000 new documents they give us in the month before trial, how are we ever going to have time to do that?
Well, that would be different. And if that actually occurs, I think you would have some arguments to make about this is unfair, Judge. You can't let them do this. But that's different than me creating a standard where they have to summarize the expected testimony of their witnesses. I'm looking at Rule 16A5. It doesn't call for that.
It doesn't.
But I can make you talk to each other.
Well, what could we go back to the idea of closing the drawbridge at some point so that we can focus on, I mean, if their theory of the case keeps changing, I mean, at some point we have to know what their theory of the case is, right?
Well, I think you're going to know more than you do now, and with some clarity that you haven't yet had by October 31st.
Okay.
And so any objection to a court order saying that you need to meet and confer with counsel for the state to talk about exactly the kind of stipulations and streamlining that you described during the month of November.
I don't think you need to order it. I think we're going to end up doing it anyway. I mean, that's our whole goal,
In
right?
fairness, I ordered you to contact them regarding deadlines for hearings and filings, and you didn't do it. And
we
so
did.
I think maybe a gentle nudge.
We did contact them and they said any date was fine with them. They had no preference at all.
Let's be a little bit more detail oriented. I need you to sit down with them and go through their witness and exhibit lists.
Little man on the bottom, Mr. Bloodworth, shaking his head. No, I don't agree with her.
No preference at all.
Look what.
Let's be a little bit more detail oriented. I need you to sit down with them, and go through their witness and exhibit lists and have a conversation about, all right, is that person just laying foundation for exhibits? Or how about we talk about these exhibits? We think we can stipulate to the authenticity and foundation for this list. Does that reduce the witness list at all? Just have a conversation.
We're happy to do that. I mean, we're planning on doing that anyway. That's why we wanted that early release date of the exhibits.
So during the month of November, yes?
Sure.
Mr. Ramos, is that possible?
Rude. She
No,
said,
it's not,
yes,
that's not a
sir.
problem. I guess one of my concerns is when we're talking about 10 terabytes of discovery, and within that discovery, there's also duplicates, right? And it's organized. It's not organized in an efficient manner. And
why don't you vertically and horizontally deduplicate?
It's harder than you think to do that.
well, I mean, two
You
things.
may need an e-discovery vendor to do it, but they would be able to horizontally and vertically deduplicate the documents. You don't have 12 copies of the same email.
We understand that, Judge, and we've started our own process. My point is this, that there is no reason why from the beginning there should be duplicates or triplicates of the documents, right? And as we get more documents that are being put in there and not organized in a certain way, it also does mess with the way that we're going about it, right? So the only thing that I guess that we're trying to make sure, we understand there's going to be rolling discovery in all cases. We're trying to find a way where we can get to a point where it's at least manageable, where you mentioned the word universe. Right now, there's some black holes in that universe that we're just completely lost at times, right? And it has to do with a variety of things. I think the October deadline is going to be great. We do want to bring this to your honor's attention now. I do not see a reason why this continues, even these subpoenas 2 months after, even the trial was canceled. Regardless, though, we're bringing it up now so that we're all on the same page. We'll be ready. We're just trying to be as efficient as possible when it comes to the actual trial deadline, because using your castle analogy, there might be some witnesses up there that are nothing more than jesters, and we're just sitting there. We don't want to do that.
Well,
yeah.
All right, let's take a step back. The rules of evidence still apply. And so if there is testimony that's simply not relevant or is it unnecessarily cumulative, it gets excluded. So you always have that tool. Second, to the extent there are black holes in the discovery, pick up the phone and be like, I don't understand where this big gap is. Third, I understand your concern regarding getting served with another terabyte of seemingly duplicate information, but a lot of that information probably has metadata. And I would understand why the state wouldn't start excluding things that it thinks are duplicates and risk not producing potentially relevant metadata. The better rule for prosecutors is to overproduce, to avoid any potential Brady issues. And so I think we're just going to have to work through this by counsel meeting and conferring a number of times. I simply don't have enough information to fashion any sort of remedy sitting here today. I appreciate being made aware of this. We'll take it one step at a time.
Well, I think we realize we don't have a remedy, which is why we're just making Your Honor aware of it.
Okay. I'm sincere when I say, please pick up the phone and start talking about these issues. Prior to taking the bench, I did a lot of complex litigation with a lot of financial information and e-discovery issues. And since taking the bench through things like the consolidated opioid litigation, we've had to manage the same things. These are not unique issues. They just take time and effort.
I'll bite my tongue, Judge Fair.
Okay. I cut you off there, Mr. Ramos. I apologize. Anything else?
No. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Your Honor, there is one matter that I think is still waiting on a ruling that I haven't heard you refer to. I just want to make sure we don't lose it. So
No, I've got it. I owe you an updated ruling regarding defendant's motion to compel disclosure of Giglio material, docket 818.
Correct. Thank you, Your Honor.
It's on the list.
Thank you.
Okay. Counsel, does it make sense to set a pretrial conference sometime during the month of November to check back in regarding some of these issues that Mr. Ramos has raised the court's awareness to?
Sure.
Okay. There are a sufficient number of nodding heads that's what we're going to do.
So Ms. Lewis and I have a trial that is likely to go the week of November 17th. So if we could avoid that week, I would be grateful.
No, we got to stay away from Thanksgiving too.
Yeah, so maybe the week of the 10th.
We can. Do you want to be doing this the week before that trial, or would you prefer to go to, say, December 5?
December 5.
We can do that.
December 5th works for me.
Mr. Bloodworth? Okay, council, 3:30 p.m., December 5 for a pre-trial conference. Happy to do it by WebEx, if that's helpful. Ms. Lewis?
That would be fine. Yeah, let's do it by WebEx.
Okay. And Ms. Lewis, are you comfortable with Ms. Richins appearing by WebEx?
We are.
Okay.
Can I
December 5. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm backtracking here. In terms of the discovery issue, and maybe I could just throw this out here so we're talking about it. I think a lot of the problem here is that Box isn't really equipped to handle this type of discovery. It's really difficult. I mean, the Box is great in a normal case, but in this case, it's awful. I can't find hardly anything in there. You made the point, that's what I was thinking about earlier about, having someone organize this, getting a professional to organize the discovery. But on the defense side, our budget is very limited. I don't think we'd even be allowed to do that at this point. And that's going to be expensive. So I don't know if we just want to throw out there if it's something the state could look into, some way to get this organized. I have some real concerns that something is going to come up at trial that's buried in there and none of us will have ever seen it, just because we're really more like at 11 terabytes at this point. We were at 10 when we took the case a year ago. We're at about 11 plus now. So anyway, I just thought that might be worth throwing out there. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Your Honor, let me
I don't want to open a new can of worms here, though. But give me a sense for a moment. Is this 11 terabytes of PDFs? Is it a mix of file formats? Mr. Bloodworth, help me understand.
Doggy shampoo procured. I don't know. It's medicated. We'll see. I hope it works. It was expensive, but I got to help with them babies with that rash, so it is what it is.
Okay.
Your Honor, it's a mix. I don't know the number. I'm not disagreeing with the 11 terabyte number, but it's a mix of data formats. As the court is aware, the state shares discovery with the defense through Box. They see the exact same thing the state sees. We give them access to the Box folder that we create with all the discovery. We are both working from the exact same Box database. The defense has asked, because of their difficulty in employing Box, they have asked for the data to be provided on hard drives as well. So the state has done that as an accommodation. What they do with those hard drives, whether they get a vendor separate from Box to organize the material, the state has we have no say in that regard. They can do it. The state doesn't control their budget. I don't even know if they've asked.
Well, I think the state does control our budget, but maybe not.
Well, I think he works for the county attorney's office, and they don't.
And
I don't, as far as I know.
I don't, as far as I know, they could be using the identical Box we use. They could be using the data in a different, with a different vendor. They could have asked for money. They could have chosen not to ask for money. I don't know, but we turn over everything we have in the same format that we view it.
Let's pause for a moment. We have time to have reasonable conversations about this. Now, part of this will be, if not simplified, at least focused when the state makes decisions about its exhibit list. And that exhibit list is going to have to be sufficiently detailed to allow defense counsel to understand what exactly Exhibit 42 is and where to find it.
We've prepared a near final version of the exhibit list. It identifies documents by Bates numbers, and then we have created a separate folder in Box, organized by Bates number, of every single document we intend to use as an exhibit.
And has that been shared with defense counsel to date?
Not yet.
That will be once we finalize the exhibit list and turn it over on October 31st.
Hold on, everybody pause. Mr. Bloodworth, understanding that whatever the working version is not the final version. Is there any reason you can't share what you've identified and separated to date to at least allow them to start working?
Your Honor, they've had this material since the moment they came on the case.
I asked a yes or no question about a folder that they don't currently have access to.
They have been able to have worked. There's nothing we're doing.
I asked a yes or no question about the folder that they don't yet have access to.
We could.
Is there any reason that it would be unfair to say, well, listen, we know, or sitting here today, we currently think we're going to use these. This case was set for trial months ago. Why can't we just give them access to what you've identified so far, understanding that you have between now and October 31 to change your mind, add stuff, take stuff out?
Your Honor, we could probably do that. It would take some work assembling it, but we could do that before October 31st for sure.
Perhaps I misunderstood. And so I'm not trying to create a folder that doesn't presently exist. I thought I heard you say there presently is a working version of a box folder that has separately identified exhibits that the state presently intends to include on its exhibit list.
That is correct. There's a working version. We are trying to populate that box folder.
Okay.
As we're building out our exhibit list.
So by August 15, send them a draft or access to a draft of the folder. Understanding it's not going to be complete, it's not going to be final, and it does not prejudice the state's rights to add or withdraw exhibits from it in any way.
Understood.
Mr. Ramos, then you and the state will be in the exact same position.
And I will commit that if we know immediately that there's documents in there, we are not going to challenge authenticity. I promise we will let him know very quickly so he doesn't even have to waste time subpoenaing those witnesses.
Okay. All right.
Because that's very helpful to us to wade through the noise.
Now, to be clear, Ms. Nestor, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Ramos, you heard me say it's not going to prejudice the state's right to add, withdraw, change its mind prior to October 31, right?
No, and I think, Judge, I think the issue has been, it's not that we haven't had him at no point, and I'm not sure why Mr. Bloodworth would insinuate that we don't have access or that we think he's hiding anything. That is not the case. The point of it is we have a lot of information, which we have been going through, so disagree with that. We're going to trial on a case that I guarantee is not going to take up 11 terabytes of information.
Right.
It will not. Okay.
I understand.
And so, but what we wanted to do was to try to get that universe very, very, very small if we could. We understand they have to provide everything to us. I think this is a fantastic solution to it that will make things very clean. So we really appreciate that August 15th deadline, Judge.
Yeah, I'm not inferring any bad faith or lack of diligence on anybody. I think we're just recognizing that the 16A1 disclosure obligation is like this big, and the 16A5 pretrial exhibit disclosure obligation is like this big. And so this will help get both sides of the V from the big bubble closer to the smaller one that's going to be used at trial.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Let me just go around the table one more time. Mr. Bloodworth, anything else today? Ms. Shervanet?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Burns?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Nestor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ramos?
It's almost 5.
All right, very good. December 5. What time did I say? 3:30? 3:30 p.m. by WebEx. I wish you and your clients and your families the very best. If anything emergency comes up, please let me know. We will contact Ms. Young, Summit County, to determine the terms of the conflict contract and figure out what's possible in terms of appointment of counsel on the newly filed case. We'll schedule an initial appearance and send out notice. I wish you all the very best. Please take care.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, that ends my day. But I want to go back and take a moment and thank Abellis. You are loved. You are appreciated more than you know. So with that, I want to let everybody know. I hope y'all have a blessed rest of your night. Hug someone you love. Go touch some grass. I'm fixing to go wash my dogs with this expensive damn shampoo that I had DoorDash to me. And yeah, with that, y'all have a great rest of your night. Peace.
Life's a ride on a rickety old track, holding on tight, never looking back.